Very shortly to discuss the big stories of the day and of the week. But first, let's get a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The driver of Bossairn's expressway service has been commended for his actions as the coach caught fire in Letterkenny last night. All 15 passengers on board were safely evacuated before the bus became engulfed in flames. Bossairn says the incident was an exceptionally rare occurrence and has confirmed a thorough investigation will be conducted. Kieran was on the bus, which was en route to Dublin at the time. He told Highland Radio News that initially they didn't realise the severity of what was happening.
In the moment, you're not really thinking about anything, you're just getting people away and getting baggages and getting all that stuff out of there. Like, it took 4 or 5 of us to open the baggage doors because the engine had stopped. There was people who had important belongings in there, and I know belongings don't matter in a crisis situation, but we didn't think at the time there was going to be a massive explosion. There were a few wee bangs, but there was nothing Hollywood about it. It fizzled and cracked for a good 20 minutes before it started to become a conflagration, and then it really did go up.
A Donegal deputy has called for further investment into the defective block scandal after the government recorded a state surplus of €5 billion in 2022. Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson, Deputy Pearse Doherty, says the figures from the latest fiscal monitor also show that Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien underspent his budget by almost €250 million. Deputy Doherty has warned the government to stop penny pinching.
These figures today show that there is capacity in the state to deal with this, to clear up the legacy of the mistakes during the Celtic Tiger era when Fianna Fáil allowed for no regulation. So many families now that went through Christmas not knowing where their home will be or what type of home they will be in next Christmas because they have houses that are falling around them. We need to stop the nonsense that people will still be locked out of this scheme because the government are penny pinching.
People in the northwest are being urged to avoid social settings as flu and COVID cases rise. The west and northwest regions are seeing a significant rise in respiratory infections, resulting in a severe impact on the health service, which is experiencing one of its busiest ever periods. 390 cases of COVID-19 and 348 flu cases were recorded in Public Health Area F, which includes Donegal, in the week ending December the 31st. Weather now mostly dry this morning, but there will be 1 or 2 bright spells. Later, isolated showers will develop with highest temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Cardja maha, tá ma gcónaí an sin dó, ol agus maha. Is má leis nuair a bhí am thart. Éon uair a bhíonn sé ag dul amach faim an gléach. Agus lá aigean, is tócha go mar óig mé.
Ní cara maithe an tabhac. Is féidir an smacht atá aige ort a bhriise leis de 28 lá. Fáil amach conas éireas an gahaf tabhac ag quit.ie.
Ó Aimenach na Shervíse Sláinte. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. It is 3 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 6th of January 2023. You're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio. Seamus Gunn will be joining us after 10 o'clock taking your legal questions. So if you have a question for Seamus, here are the numbers for you, and these are the same numbers for you to get involved in the conversation as we welcome onto the programme our Friday panel. Texts and WhatsApps to 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Emails to comments@highlandradio.com. And as you heard just as we came on air, you can watch the show, and our guests will have the entertainment crew in as well after 11 by going to YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, across our Facebook pages, or indeed on our website. Just click Watch Live. Right. Let us say good morning to our guests this morning. Councillor Jack Morey, how are you getting on? Good morning to you.
Very good. Greg, good morning to you, and Paddy, and to all your listeners.
Good to be getting you in loud and clear. Paddy Rooney, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme today.
Yes, good morning, Greg. How are you?
Very good indeed. And of course, you scheduled for quite some time to be on this morning, but of course, we also had you on as a guest during the week, given the important topic and your background in health and what have you. So it's 2 shows for our listeners. I was going to say the word price, and then I thought I could get myself into bother here, Paddy Rooney, of course, PRO of Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital. And last but certainly not least, Professor Pat O'Connor, Professor of Sociology and Social Policy at Limerick University. Pat, lovely to see you again, and a very happy new year to you, and a happy new year to all of you, of course. Good morning to you, Pat. No, I think you're muted, or there's a slight connection issue there. Hopefully you're muted, or I'll have to kick you out unceremoniously. Good morning, Pat. No, you're out, and I'll bring you back in. I'll bring you back in again. Right, okay. I want to start. Well, we'll come round to the health issues, of course, because it's been the big story that affects all of us in one way or other. But firstly, I want to talk about a farmer who flung bags of excrement at 2 government TDs. He's defended his actions, saying someone had to speak up to them. Joseph Baldwin, 38, of Ballyaneen, Gort, County Galway, is now the subject of a Garda investigation following his behaviour at a public meeting over a planned biogas facility in his hometown. Mr. Baldwin told the Irish Independent he was not concerned about the resulting furore after TDs Anne Rabbit and Kieran Cannon spoke of their ordeal at the faeces being thrown at them. So I'll start with you as an elected rep, I suppose, Councillor Jack Murray. Is in any way can this type of action be defended? This type of direct action against politicians?
Absolutely not. So, I woke up yesterday morning at a Twitter notification, a tweet of interest, and it was Anne Rabbit's tweet. And his initial reaction, I thought it was a parody account or something. I thought this something I guess couldn't possibly have happened. But then when you see it, it's just horrendous for anybody to have to experience it. It's despicable act, and in no way and I obviously fundamentally disagree with the politics of both politicians. There's ways to argue it, there's ways to protest it, but that's just horrendous. And so, like I said, those TDs' families now, they'll be suffering as much as they are. They'll be worried the next time they go to a public meeting that their loved ones are going to be subjected to such kind of humiliating kind of an attack. It was just absolutely disgraceful and can be condemned hard enough. I think it's just totally wrong.
Do you think this is part of sort of a wider, more vocal opposition to politics? You know, an awful lot of stuff online now, politicians being challenged in the streets, arguing or stating they've been felt intimidated as they walk into the door and whatnot. Do you think this is just the next sort of evolution of that growing anger and that visible anger towards politicians?
I do think politics in a way is getting a lot more toxic. I think attacks on politicians is almost becoming to be seen as fair game. I know the AALG, which is Association for Local Councillors, did a survey among their members, and they said that almost half of county councillors had considered stepping down or are considering stepping down because of the abuse that they had received, which is very worrying, because we should be encouraging people into politics. We need more people, particularly we need to encourage more young people and more women into politics, because it's underrepresented among those demographics, and this type of thing is only going to discourage people that we need from coming forward.
But do we not need some sort of an evolution in our politics then, in how we see what our councillors do and what they do for us, how we see what our TDs do and what they do for us, and ministers as well? Do you know what I mean? We're seeing a public attitude change. Nothing should ever really change driven by people having poo thrown at them, but you know, maybe the system needs to say, right, this is not just happening here, this is happening globally. Do we need to change or do something different that people feel will more representative of them? Because I'm sure, as an elected rep yourself, you know, from time to time you will get abuse, but my word, when your party's in government, you're going to know all about it then.
Absolutely. Obviously, a lot of the ire is always going to be directed at the ones in power. So I think, to myself, I haven't experienced that level of abuse. Certainly not that type of a situation, but I'm lucky the good people of South Sean haven't attacked me in any way, shape or form. I have gone through fairly widely covered year of difficulty during the year as mayor, and what people don't really see is politicians sign up for it. You expect a certain amount bullishness, I suppose, in the job as you take it on. Your family don't, and people don't fully realise that the toll that it can take on your family, the worry that it puts on those people who mightn't be political at all.
And I get that, and I want to bring in the other guests, and this is in no way to any way defend or this can be no justification what happened. But I feel sorry for what these two TDs went through. But look what the public are going through. Do you know what I mean? The pain that they're feeling, the heartache they're feeling in terms of the cost of living, the terms of the health service, everything, you know, and things only looking more bleak. You know, what about, they might say, well, what about us? Why is politics not changing to try and adapt and help them? You know, at the end of the day, what happened to Anne and Kieran is terrible, but they'll still sleep tonight.
Yeah, I'm not going to be here and defend the political system. I'm not going to say that everybody's been treated well. The people are extremely angry. I live in a community where people are very, very angry. People's houses are falling down. And to be fair, the people that are affected by the effect of flocks have been inspirational in the way they've held themselves to dignified protest in Dublin. They couldn't have made their message any clearer by the way they've done it, but they did it in a respectful, dignified way. And I think that should be the example that we follow. Like this act against Anne Rabbitte and Kieran Cannon, just it's a disgusting way to behave. I don't think that's a way to get your point across at all. I don't even know if the point was made in any way or was articulated.
No, and they weren't actually responsible for this decision either. Pat O'Connor, can we hear you now? No, unfortunately, Pat, I can't. You're just going to have to reselect a different mic. My apologies. I will come to you in a moment, Pat O'Connor. Paddy Rooney, it's difficult for politicians, and even in a way, and it wasn't my intention, the way I challenged Councillor Murray there, it's difficult for a politician to complain about this for the exact reasons that I outlined. There should be a space for them to do so. But, you know, I think there's an awful lot of the public might go, well, you know, you think it's bad for you, what about us? It's just a funny old world we're living in at the moment, Paddy.
Yeah, it's a funny old world, but I mean, it was a disgraceful act, Greg, because I was watching the RT News last night. Now, Kieran Cannon was interviewed. Anne Rabbitte wasn't, but there was a recording of an interview she must have given to the radio, and she was very shaken about the whole thing, even to the point where she said that she was actually afraid to go home. She didn't know what to expect when she got there. I mean, that's the same thing about public servants, people that work in the HSE, either in institutional care out in the community, being attacked in there because the general public are so frustrated around access and around all elements of that. I mean, what this man done to those two public representatives was he actually assaulted them, and I hope that I think the Gardaí are involved and lets nature take its course there. He did. I was reading that piece this morning, all right, where he said that, you know, people have to listen, and well, you know, there's one way of making them listen, but that's not the way to do it. I mean, the ironic thing about this is the decision around the reversal of a planning decision by Donegal County Council. It was taken by our on board Planola. Kieran Cannon and Anne Rabbitte had no input of that whatsoever. And if we believe about this principle about the separation of powers in the state, they have none either. So that man is, if he wants to fly theses or whatever, let him go to Dublin to the department to the.
But there are those then that will say
Dublin to do it.
There are those then that will say that we have never heard of this issue before. And again, I really don't want to come across as if I'm trying to defend some sort of an action, but there are quite a few people out there that, you know, believe that enough is enough. If this is what it takes to get these topics discussed on programmes like this and others, well then, you know, the ends justify the means. I don't agree with that for a second, but he might feel, and those that support him might feel, well, everyone's talking about it now and they wouldn't have if we hadn't done this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's it, but that's going to make no impact at all, I suspect, on the issue at hand in Galway. I believe there was some incident. Jack might be able to say something about this outside of Martin Kenny TD's house recently as well. It was on the news last night. Did he say that he was going to have to move his family? There was someone that was in Leo Varadkar's house in Dublin back within the last 2 years. There was, and I can't remember what the subject was at the time either, but there was people, what's the word? They were picketing outside his house. That's the word, and other public representatives. And whatever about a dissatisfaction we have about the actions of the state or about the issues or whatever, I really think we're crossing the line here because what we're doing is we are mixing personal and professional here up and putting them into the one pot. I mean, public representatives, we need them, and we need lots of them. We need new ones. There's local elections coming off next year. This is where political parties grow their public representatives, people who end up in Dáil Éireann, people who end up government ministers. I mean, we need them, whether we like them or we don't like them, we need them. And this is a woeful advert, and it's a woeful incentive to draw people into the system, because you end up then you don't get the best people. You get people, but you don't get the best people.
I mean, you'd have to ask yourself, I would ask myself the same question. I mean, anyone close to you, Paddy, would you, if they said they were entering politics, you know, you would say to them, are you sure that's really what you want to do?
Yeah, and I would be ringing up Dr. Cliff Haley, the clinical director of the mental health services in Donegal, if he still has. That's what I would be doing. Because, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it myself. I have nothing but the greatest of admiration for Jack and all his other colleagues on Donegal County Council and wider field, because I personally wouldn't do it. You know, people are always slinging around claims about, you know, politicians are only in it for the money. Well, there are a lot of people in Dáil Éireann, particularly in the legal and medical profession, that could be earning lots and lots and lots of more money if they were pursuing their private career rather than a public career. So, you know, I don't like to see this, and I don't, I wouldn't condone it in any shape or form.
No, and I hope now it's third time lucky in welcoming Pat O'Connor onto the programme. Pat, thanks so much for your endeavours. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. I hope you can hear me. Can you?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great.
I know you weren't privy to everything that that Jack and Paddy were talking about there, but you know the thrust of what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So what's your take on developments?
I suppose there's one point I'd like to make. I wondered about who was chairing this meeting and why the chair didn't ask these people to leave the room. In a way, I think there have to be certain rules about engagement. Yes, everyone is frustrated, but there have to be certain kind of limits about what is acceptable in the public area. And whoever was chairing it had the responsibility to basically see that those were observed. But nobody seems to have mentioned who was chairing it or why they didn't ask those people to leave it. And Rabbit has said that the people who brought in the cow dung stayed within a couple of feet of her.
I think too, though, is it slightly more complicated now in that you being refused access to a meeting or you being not given an opportunity to speak is now actually being weaponized. That's often being videoed and for some protesting, you know, that's the success of it, Pat.
Well, I suppose, I don't think it's being excluded from a meeting, but they're basically being told there are certain rules, and unless you basically follow them, then you can't remain in the room. So it's really rules of engagement. So
what is Pat, then an acceptable way to protest your disagreement with politics nowadays, then? Unfortunately, Pat's line's failed. We'll bring her back in. I'll ask the same question to you, Jack. What do you believe is a appropriate way, then, to express your frustration with politicians and the decisions they make?
I agree strongly with protests when necessary, strong protests, vociferous protests if necessary. I just think that crossed the line into intimidation and harassment and assault, and I don't think that's acceptable. But I would like to make a point, though. I love being elected representative. I love being a county councillor. People will say to me, just as Patty said, are you mad? Like, what are you putting yourself through that for?
But the only thing, Jack, just say, for instance, after the next election, when it becomes clear that Sinn Féin can't actually fix the problems at Letterkenny University Hospital, because they can't, right? Because politicians don't really make those decisions. And when it becomes apparent that it's going to be slightly more complicated than we thought to fully fund a MICA redress scheme, and when it becomes clear that really there's only so much Sinn Féin or any political party can do to ease the cost of living crises, you know, things are going to be very different for you at that point.
I don't underestimate the challenges across the board that will come from a Sinn Féin government, will be faced by Sinn Féin government. But I've been a member of Sinn Féin for nearly 20 years. I've been dedicating my adult life to that point, to getting us into government, because I do believe that we are best placed to do it. We have the policies, the best place to make society better for the people that live in. I'm willing to take the challenges. If people are going to be angry at us when we're in government, then so be it. I'll still be a member of Sinn Féin throughout that, because that's the very reason that I joined as a teenager. I became involved in political life. I do want to make a difference. I do want to get to that point, and as difficult as it may be, as I say, I encourage more people to get into politics. Despite these headlines, it's a very rewarding vocation. It's something I'm very, very proud to do. I loved being mayor of the county for that year, despite its challenges, and I would encourage more young people, more women to come forward. It's not as bad as all those headlines come out, and it's a very, very rewarding job to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be a female politician and on social media at the same time. Professor O'Connor, would you recommend anyone close to you to become a politician?
Well, I mean, in a way, I do think that it's the same problem in many areas of life. You know, bullies triumph. And if really we allow bullies to continue to triumph, really there's no possibility of change in any respect. So yes, I would recommend people to basically try, but I think in politics, but I think the system needs to change. Because really, if it doesn't, then people who, have a lot to offer, but who can be personally intimidated. I mean, and there is the cliche, that men are afraid of losing face, women are afraid of being killed, that's kind of a cliche. And if we organise our public life, that basically bullies, who happen to be mostly men, are the only ones who can control the space, then really it's a very poor lookout.
All right, okay, listen, that was the views there, the voice of Professor Pat O'Connor. We're also hearing from Paddy Rudy and Councillor Jack Murray, and we want your views as well, 086 60 25,000. A caller says, plenty of condemnation from TDs and senators about the throwing of excrement. Hardly any condemnation from TDs and senators on the death of the tragic death of a young girl who lay in a trolley for 16 hours, and also the destruction of Killarney stabbings. I have heard quite a bit on both of those issues, to be honest with you. Greg, the bag of waste being thrown at Minister Anne Rabbitte is just awful, regardless of who you support. It's a disgrace on the Irish people. Right, we'll be back with more in the 9 till noon show and more from our guests after these messages.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
If over the holidays you decide it's time to change your car, then why not treat yourself to a new Kia in 2023? Make an inquiry on our website and we'll be in touch to arrange your purchase when we return in the new year. We have cars ready to drive away in January, so visit imotors.ie. iMotors would like to wish everyone a happy new year.
Is your loan provider leaving town? Then why not look to your local credit union? At B&S Credit Union, we have a transfer loan just for you. The transfer process is straightforward, with an emphasis on personal service delivered locally. Apply online today at bnscu.ie or free phone us on 1800 290 390 or drop into our office at Main Street, Ballybuffet. New members welcome. B&S Credit Union. Local lending you can rely on. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
If you're about to use an electrical appliance, like your washing machine, which uses a lot of energy, just ask the question, is this a good time?
Yeah, it's fairly breezy out. You're good to go.
If it's windy out, it is a good time, because wind generates renewable energy, which Ireland will be relying on more and more. To find out the best times for your electricity usage, sign up to our pilot at esbnetworks.ie/pilot.
Things don't have to be this way. Introducing
Radio.
Take control.
No more searching or complaining, because listen, it's
wherever you are.
Experts have said to expect
60
stations across the country.
Yeah, and it's even got the pod thingies.
Podcasts.
Oh yes,
It's got everything.
Discover a radio experience that speaks to you with the Radio Player app. Download today.
The Redcastle Oceanfront Golf and Spa Hotel in County Donegal invite you to their weekend wedding showcase on Saturday 7th and Sunday 8th of January from 11am to 5pm. View the breathtaking ocean suite set up for a wedding. Meet the wedding team, enjoy refreshments and more. Avail of superb offers for weddings booked on the day. See redcastlehoteldonegal.com.
All right, caller says, hi, Greg. In relation to the excrement being thrown, don't think this is as serious as the stabbings that were downgraded to public order instances. What TDs are doing to the Irish people is more serious. Paddy, yeah, we need public representatives, but they need to represent the people, not their party against the people. And other high-grade politicians are getting away with too much greed and corruption. Look at what Leo did, leaking confidential information. Is this not serious? And therein lies the rub, Paddy, before we move on. You see, it's compared, what happened to these two Ds is instantly compared to, you know, other things and other people's experiences.
But there is a way to protest, Greg. I mean, if you look back at the last 50 years, you know, the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland was by and large peaceful. If you look at I think there was something like 500,000 people protested in Dublin in 1981 around taxation. And the government had a commission of taxation after that and whatever came out of it. And we look at back within the last 10 years, then the protest around the introduction of water charges. I mean, that was all mass protest and there was no need to attack anybody or to hurt anybody. So there are ways to do it, and there are unacceptable ways to do it. Because once we cross that bridge and we try and accidentally rationalize it in some way, it's putting us into a dangerous place. But
we're on that bridge, so that is the thing. I anticipate stuff like this. I mean, I see much worse than this on social media. I'm sure if you polled TDs and politicians, they would tell you if they're, the protests outside people's homes and certain words and stuff being shouted at them. And I'm not grouping this farmer in with that. Don't get me wrong. But my point is that the direction of traffic is one way, and it's not where people step back from this, Paddy. You know, we're going to see more of this. It's just a case of how it's dealt with, I think.
Yeah, it is. And I suppose it's therein lies some kind of a statement about what's taking place in society, you know, about respect and how you do business and so on and so forth, and what's tolerable and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. I mean, we're all now in a place where most of us are very well educated in this country and we like to assert our rights. But we pay very little attention to the other side of that coin, which is our responsibility, both to our fellow man and to society in general. And you're right, that's the drift of travel. I'm on social media myself, and I see this kind of stuff going on. But I don't like the way that it's this going, because I don't know where all this is going to end, actually.
Yeah, Pat, is this like trying to hold the sea back, though? Are we going to see more of this? There's already talk of certain politicians now in this country requiring security and what have you. I think that's going to be a norm going forward at certain levels.
Oh, that way, I don't know. I do think that we need to really call a halt. I think asking that all politicians have security, it really interferes with the whole political system. You know, people need to feel they can access their TD or their senator or their county councillor. I mean, what's also one of the things that is worth highlighting is that this man hadn't really identified who was responsible for the problem. You know, that in a way, protest needs to be targeted at the right, in the right arena, at the right people. As I understand it, this was a decision of An Bord Pleanála. It wasn't a decision of these individuals at all. But so I think really we need to begin to take seriously the whole question of acceptable public behaviour. And rather than, we cannot protect everyone from everyone, have police, is there to be a police presence every time you have... Well,
with Pat, do you think that this is... I would say this is, though, obviously part of societal attitude. In other words, maybe a lack of respect for the Gardaí and their authority. That for some people, nurses aren't held to the same regard as others, and they're open to criticism and abuse in other areas of society, anywhere where you seem to be some sort of an arm or part of the state. I don't think I think we're going to see more of this right across the board. I don't think it's just necessarily elected politicians. And as I say, it's not just in this country. It's funny, there's a little bit of a lag, but everything we're seeing here, we've already seen in other parts of the world, it seems.
That is absolutely true, and it is kind of a crudification of kind of social and political attitudes. And in a way, I think at one level it is very good that people are engaged, that people care, that people have opinions, that people are putting pressure on those in power. But for that pressure to actually be effective and for society to work, it needs to be targeted at those who are making a particular decision, and also needs to be within certain limits. Because otherwise, well, I suppose, not to be too dramatic about it, otherwise you have the whole breakdown of society.
Yeah. Although, Jack, finally on this, I suspect that, this farmer might not vote in the next general election. A lot of people don't vote. What is it? Close than half the population are disengaged really from elective politics. And I think an awful lot of what we're talking about now is an attitude or a movement that's happening, outside of people that might even vote because they don't see the point in it. What is the point? You know what I mean? If we're going to make change, we're going to have to do it by doing this or doing that or doing the other. So, I'm not sure appealing to certain people who have certain views to sort of make your views known at the ballot box or in a certain different way, it might fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, the right to vote is probably the most powerful weapon we have in order to achieve change in the political system. But I wouldn't in any way discourage people from protest. It should be encouraged, and you can see the success of protest movements. The effective block crisis in Donegal, while it's not over yet, it's a lot further forward because of the protest movement. That shows the success of it. A number of years ago, the 90-10 scheme was nearly accepted as the norm, and that wasn't going to change until the people come to the streets and made change.
Well, just in relation to that, in relation to the defective concrete block protest, you were there, and you saw the reception Charlie McConnell received when he got up to speak. Do you think that's an acceptable type of protest that he's drowned out by boos and jeers and have certain things said to him? I'm not, by the way, for a second, I'm only asking that question just trying to gauge of where you're at. I'm not saying it's right or wrong myself. I'm just asking. I'm trying to get to the bottom of what is actually acceptable in people's views protest.
I was there standing underneath the stage when that happened. I was of the opinion that he should be allowed to speak so we could hear what he had to say. There's no point in calling for accountability and then not letting the person speak. But at the same time, people have a right to voice their anger. If people are very angry, they have a right to say that they're very angry. I was in Lifford too, and it was very uncomfortable for every single member of Donegal County Council when we saw again the emotion, the outpouring of hurt and anger that people affected by defective blocks had. And every one of us, we had to take that in the chin. I said there was a very uncomfortable day for me and others. You have to accept that because people that we represent are very angry and upset and have the right to say that. And I think that's acceptable. And I think that's where you draw the line. People can voice it, but not as been described, close to assault by throwing this excellence at a woman while she's on stage. That's
all right. I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk to you about the other stuff because people listening will go, well, you're talking an awful lot about that, but what about the real world issues like hospitals and all, and that kind of feeds into all of this, and we've spoke about that extensively during the week. Do you want a last word on this, Paddy?
Not really, but you're right anyway. A data junkie like me who likes figures and so on and so forth. I mean, at the last general election, I think there was something like 800,000 people decided not to exercise their franchise, which is an incredible vote. I mean, that would elect two governments on its own. So Jack is very, very right there, and I think that often gets lost. It's a very powerful weapon that a person has is this here, their pen, their pencil when they go to a polling booth, people should not underestimate that at all as an action available to them.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. More from our guests and you at home, at work, or wherever you are after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosk. Download the McGee's Photo Prints app or visit mcgees.ie. Photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10, ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
In cold weather, why work with a red nose and blue fingers? Heat your garage or shed with a kerosene blow heater from Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny. Call into Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny, where you'll find heaters of all sizes for sale and hire at great value.
Don't miss the winter sale at Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure. Get 20% off men's, women's and kids' shoes and save an extra 20% on sale items in store and online while stocks last. Also, free next day delivery on orders over €85. Make your shop LK voucher go further with the winter sale at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Us pigeons see everything when we're flapping around up here. Well, almost everything. See, burning certain fuels releases invisible toxic pollutants, which can trigger asthma and lead to serious illness. So, if you're going to light a fire in your home, make sure to use low-smoke fuel. Oh, and never wing at burning rubbish.
Choosing low-smoke fuel is better for all of us. Let's clear the air for everyone. And remember to clean chimneys and heating appliances at least once a year. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Further lines added in McElhenney's biggest ever winter sale. Grab your bargain of the year with huge savings on fashion, footwear, homeware and much more. Explore the collection online or visit us in-store for this unmissable sale event. Don't wait around, as when these amazing offers are gone, they're gone. Hurry, the McElhenney's winter sale must end soon.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
A caller says there's an awful lot of anger out there towards politicians. Many things were swept under the rug that hurt the people. And we're not talking about people's right to protest. And I think it's being encouraged. I think we're talking about how we do protest. It's a very important part of democracy. Irish Times covered 8 protesters in a TD but never questioned one of the victims of the real issue it was about. Media control power of most protests. Public representatives must listen and act more effectively. Like, say, for instance, talking about the defective concrete blocks issue briefly on this, Pat, and I'll just bring you in on this. You know, that showed that the media, if the public organise in a certain way, politicians, the media can't ignore an issue. Now, that is certainly not over the line yet, but it does demonstrate the power of the people. Paddy referenced also a little earlier on the water protests, you know, and there have been others. So, you know, the people can take the power from politicians and indeed the media when they organise and do so in great numbers, Pat.
Yes, absolutely. And I do think that in a way, it's a challenge to the nature of our democracy. It isn't sufficient to say people have the power to vote. Yes, of course they do, and it's absolutely critical that people exercise that vote. But in a way, what we're seeing is that is not enough. And I suppose one of the extraordinary things about Irish society is that the politicians, the structures, don't seem to be able to connect with that huge volume of energy, really, because that's what anger is, and use that to solve social problems. I mean, I was really struck watching on the telly the big build, BAS, right, mobilising basically a huge number of volunteers with the core team to basically refurbish and rebuild 6 houses in 9 days. that kind of energy and involvement is almost never captured, or is at least not captured enough. And in a way, that gives it solves the problem. It gives people the feeling they can be effective, and it actually is a manifestation of people's energy being turned in a positive way. And if that is not used, then it turns negative and sours, and basically turns into disruption and the breakdown of society. So I think there is a bigger challenge here, which is really utilising anger in a positive way.
Yeah. The health service executives, top officials, have told hospitals to immediately outline their plans for 7-day working for staff, including senior doctors, in a bid to ease the overcrowding crisis in emergency units. In a letter to hospital group chief executives, community healthcare organisations and clinical directors, the HSE's chief operations officer, Damien McCallion, and chief clinical officer, Dr. Colm Henry, have told hospital managers to implement 7/7 working in hospitals and community services over the next 2 weeks with immediate effect. And we also have the heads of HSE calling around various hospitals, which I would say arguably looks good, but the last thing I would want is higher-ups landing to where I was working as I was trying to deal with an absolute crisis. But anyway, be that as it may, we spoke extensively on the programme this week about this, Pat. Obviously people's real world lived experiences, the awful things that people have gone through, but also with the thanks of the likes of Paddy Rooney and Peter O'Rourke, to try and really get down to the nitty-gritties of where we're at and what truly needs to or can be done to try and prevent this happening again, because I sense that this will die down over the next 3 or 4 weeks. It'll rumble, busy during the summer and all that, and then it'll come up next winter and it'll all start all over again. And it's that sort of cycle that maybe I'm trying to discuss behind that more than just reacting to that cycle. But what's your views on what we've seen over the last couple of weeks and as we look towards the future, Pat?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is completely unacceptable. There are underlying problems, right, which we all know, like this happens every year. The issue of bed numbers, the fact that we're so out of line with the OECD, which is something like 4.2 beds per 1,000 population. We're something like 2.8. Those figures could be slightly out. But in a way, this problem is not just now, it has been going on for years. The fact that our population has increased, we have known the population was increasing. It's now over 5 million. I remember a time when it was 2.6 million, okay? So obviously, it's also an aging population. This is all not rocket science. I cannot understand how there isn't basically forward planning happening in the Department of Health, which projects forward. Like we're being told there's been 1,000 extra beds. We need to know, relative to the population, relative to the aging population, what is the situation? Saying we have 1,000 extra we need obviously more, given that our population is going up and that it's likely to continue and that it's likely to continue aging. I suppose so that's a fundamental problem. Secondly, what is also very, very clear is that this drive to get people out of hospital, great, but where are they going to go? Like everybody knows that the home help service is partly because people, it's been contracted out to private organisations some of which pay dreadfully, and basically the amount of time allocated is being cut down to 30, 40 minutes, not including travel time, etc., etc. So really, we have not really...
And just to underline that, yesterday, for example, a snapshot, but I presume it's reflective, 25 people well enough to be discharged from Letterkenny University Hospital, but no one to take them home, no step-down care or beds in the community, 35 people waiting for a bed. So even just on that one given morning, if we could move people through the system, then the majority of those waiting for bed would have gotten it. I just wonder, Paddy Rooney, I understand the headlines as it relates to, pressure on hospitals to do 7/7 working and all that kind of stuff. A lot of these staff already under huge pressure, and they might feel the narrative is that they're not working hard enough or long enough hours to alleviate this problem. We've heard from Pat O'Connor there highlighting one of the big issues. From a public relations situation, I just feel this could be problematic, even if it does somewhat alleviate the problems.
Well, I was, as you pointed out at the beginning, I was on your programme a couple of days ago, and we went through the trials and tribulations of the HSEs. There's no point going over all that ground again. But I have to say that it's a sorry state of affairs that we're in the middle of a firestorm here. And we have the Minister of Health, I think he was outside of the Dáil, and he said on camera about that he was calling on hospital consultants to cooperate with weekend working or whatever. That's not actually part of their contract or their terms of conditions of employment. They're rostered to work during the week and to do ward rounds and to do outpatient clinics, and all of their time from Monday morning till Friday evening is accounted for. Now, what he's asking to do, he's asking them to cooperate on this. I mean, they don't have to, because it's not actually part of their terms and conditions of employment. And if they do the weekends, it means something that they do, some scheduled work that they have doing during the week is going to be set aside. Or does he want them hospital consultants to work 7 days a week? I mean, this is just the height of madness, because you must be sick and tired of listening to me now, Greg, about, I've been saying this for 5 years about what hospitals need to do, that they need to be turned into 7-day institutions. And Sean Murphy sort of went there with you part of the way, was it yesterday? Putting forward plans, asking consultants to just completely remodel what they're doing because the place is under huge pressure. That's something that needs to be negotiated and planned, and for consultants to be rostered to work, because, there's been it's not new that there's an issue in hospitals about senior decision making, or the people that have the capacity to make senior decisions around the admission and discharge of patients within hospital on a 7-day week. This is not new. This is a 50-year-old problem or whatever. Right. So this will happen. I was sort of spoiled everything on Wednesday by saying that these viral infections that it's sweeping the country at the moment, they'll come and they'll go, but elective surgery is going to come back here. So this is not going to stop. When we're here on a sunny day in May, hospitals up and down the country are going to be packed to the rafters as well. And I mean, I think it was your party colleague, Jack, David Cullinan, the Sinn Féin spokesperson on health. He read it into the record. I think it might have been the good part of May last year, about the number of people who are on waiting lists in this country. We have a population of 5 million people, and I think there's loose change short of 1 million people are on some form of a waiting list or other in the HSE. And we must be a very sick and ill nation that is going on. They haven't gone away either. They have to come back into the system. So the Department of Health of the HSE is asking hospital consultants now, or hospital managers, to talk about 7-day week working. For how long? For a fortnight? For a month? I mean, this needs to be going on forever. Yeah. And I'm saying that for the last 5 years.
I get a sense that I can pretty much predict what you're listening to at any given time at this stage, Paddy. Did you hear Stephen Mulvaney this morning?
No, I didn't.
Right, okay. Well, I can't predict. There was he's the acting CEO. There was almost a sense of desperation in that he needs every single private bed that is going. They've got about 10% of available private beds at the moment, and he says if they can give us any beds, then there's 1,400 still available potentially that would be usable in this scenario. And it almost was an appeal to private hospitals, please give us these beds. There was a sense of desperation there. I mean, immediately, whatever about 5,000 in the long term, immediately the HSE needs thousands of beds right now. Unfortunately, they only have access to 140 private hospital beds in this country currently.
Well, because you see, private hospitals are businesses, right? They're a private hospital like the Beacon in Dublin is a very different animal than Letterkenny University Hospital. They do a different profile of work because they can tell you the profile of work that they're going to be doing on the 27th of September coming up. Letterkenny University Hospital can't say that because the unpredictable nature of the demand. So they have their own work. Private beds is absolutely no good. If you draw a line from Derry down to Cork, access to private beds in private hospitals is completely useless to any hospital to the left of that because there's no meaningful capacity there. If you look at the hospitals in Dublin from Tala in the south up to Beaumont in the north of Dublin, the people in their emergency department on trolleys can consume all the private beds that are available in Dublin anyway. It'll do some good somewhere, but it's actually going to do nothing to the overall picture right across the country.
Okay, and I also wonder the closing of nursing homes that is happening over the last while. That's obviously going to affect some places because those are beds that are no longer available. I think HSE is trying to get some of them reopened.
I think, sorry to cut across you, Greg, I think the worrying thing about the whole thing is before you actually can solve a problem, you need to be able to define what it is in the first place. And there was a very interesting exchange took place on primetime last night between Jennifer O'Carroll McNeil, is it? I have got that right, and Roisin Shortall. And Jennifer McNeil was making the point about record high levels of spending in healthcare, record high levels of recruitment, everything thrown at it. But the Roisin Shortall make the point there's happy days here. It's just that the wrong thing is being done. She was the chair of the Sláinte Healthcare Committee. So all of this money has been put into the system.
Yeah.
But still we don't have 7-day week working in hospitals. Like, sure, I mean, it's doing the wrong thing. If we can define what the problem is in the first place, and then we might have some sense of being able to correct it or address it rather than just throwing money at it.
23 billion for what we have at the moment. And Councillor Murray, and I don't want to be pitching this politically, but Paddy Rooney mentioned your health spokesperson, David Callanan. Some reports that he's being actually asked to maybe not be quite as vocal on the health issue because this is going to be on his lap in 18 months, 2 years potentially. And you know what I mean? He's going to have to do an awful lot of backtracking in relation to into this. I'm not going to ask you to comment directly on that, but it kind of talks to the reality of, and I kind of put it to you a little earlier on, that when you've got someone like Paddy Rooney, people like Peter O'Rourke and others, when we talk about, like, we have to identify the problems almost before we can even start to fix them. I hope I'm not incorrectly paraphrasing you there, Paddy. You know, we have a problem. We have a problem, and I wouldn't like the job of fixing it.
Yeah, well, I think David Cullenan's 100% right to be coming out and making the utterances that he has. David Cullenan is lining himself up to be the next Minister for Health. He has to be putting forward that he has the solution to do that. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be utopia if it's in a Sinn Féin government, but he has to be setting out his stall and saying what we would do differently. So he's 100% right in doing that. And I listened to Jennifer O'Carroll McNeil last night in prime time myself, and what I think was unforgivable is that she almost portrayed the crisis as like a sucker punch by respiratory viruses that they didn't see coming. Like, we've just been through a pandemic, and I think most people would expect that the one positive legacy of that pandemic is that we'd be greater prepared.
We all knew there was going to be a dual. It even had a name. What was it? The dual demic or something. We knew we were going to get the double hit and RSV. There were very strong indications that was. So we've had plenty of. We were forewarned of this. And listen, I can tell you right now, and I am not involved in health. Next winter, the winter after, and every winter thereafter, there's going to be a rush on hospitals because of respiratory illnesses. And thankfully, we have an ageing population and people are staying healthier and living longer. But the older the population gets, and it seems particularly in this part of the world, the more presentations there are with respiratory illness at hospitals. So let me predict today, every winter for the next 10 years, I'll go as far as 10 years, we're going to have this.
Exactly. It was inevitable that there was going to be this pressure on the health system. Like, in the summer of this year, I think Letterkenny Hospital had reached full capacity protocol in the summer before the respiratory illnesses of the winter had arisen. So it was entirely not just predictable, but inevitable this was going to happen. So that's where I am at a loss as to the lack of preparation to be prepared for this winter. And for Jennifer O'Carroll McNeil to be on there, almost like they were shocked that they didn't know this was going to happen. That's not acceptable. People.
Do you think your party need to renegotiate then contracts to not have consultants working in the way they are at the moment, or other key staff, to have them working over weekends, working more hours, whatever it might be. I mean, that's part of the solution here. You're gonna have to sort of start reopening negotiations with people in the health service, presumably. I mean, your party prepared to do that?
Absolutely. Like, everything needs to be explored to make sure this is happening. And the likes of expertise of Paddy really need to be taken on board and implemented to see how we can make sure that this doesn't happen. I spoke to a GP this morning who said that he was quite annoyed that they were said that GP should be doing more hours, as that was a form of a solution. He was saying at that point, the hours that they're suggesting, they're already bogged down in paperwork. They're already not able to take on new patients. So he felt that it was just that statement was more just a.
Well, there's another pack of another pack of contracts that will probably need to be renegotiated so that we actually have more GPs working in GPs practices, more GP nurses. You're going to have to look at increasing pay and conditions for people working in care in the community. You have your work cut out, Pat O'Connor. Go on ahead, speak about that, and then I want to ask you a question. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. Well, within the parameters of recognising there are structural problems, but what is interesting is that some hospitals are doing better than others. And I think in a way it's important to also look at an organisational level. So, for example, in Waterford, there hasn't been anyone on a trolley for something like 2.5 years. In Limerick, I did notice that it was said by one of the medical people in the area that there had been a system whereby everyone was not funneled through the accident emergency unit at a point in time. They could be sent to specific units, and a management decision had been made to end that, thus exacerbating the bottlenecks. So, okay, there are national issues, but there are also institutional issues that some ones are doing better than others. And in a way, that needs to be, there needs to be, in the interim, some learning on that.
Yeah, I saw a local government TD, Paddy, putting up a post on Twitter celebrating the fact that, I thought it was a bit crude, to be honest with everything that's going on, but celebrating the fact that no one's been in a trolley in Waterford for 2 years. What would be happening down there that's different to here?
I'm not sure is the answer to that, but I can say this. There are 27, I think, Band 3 and Band 4 hospitals in the country. Letterkenny is one of those in Band 3. And Waterford is one, and Kilkenny is 2. And I think that was the hospital that was referenced by Jennifer McNeil last night. But does it not seem odd then that there's 25 hospitals are doing it wrong and there's 1.5 hospitals doing it right? I mean, I'll get the fact that there's a problem possibly in the management of 5 or 6 hospitals or whatever. And as somebody who's an avid watcher of the BBC News, Northern Ireland News, 6:30 every evening, Jack may have access to this as well or watch it. I mean, there are 8 of these hospitals in Northern Ireland, from Altnagelvin all the way across to the Royal in Belfast and Daisy Hill. Every one of those are I mean, they've about 20 ambulances outside. Can I just make one point though, to just in case now I want to say something in favour of the likes of Stephen Mulvaney and the guys, the higher echelons of the HSE. Tony O'Brien, the former CEO, immediately before Paul Reid, he gave an interview, a very long interview with the Sunday Business Post. It was a double-page spread. And he talked about the fact that he was not allowed to run or manage the HSE as he wanted to do it. And he gave there was many references, but the one I remember was Portlaoise General Hospital. There was a lot of problems, clinical issues around their emergency department, around their maternity services, and around radiology. They were all in the news over a period of 4 or 5, and they had a very high level of locum consultants covering the post there. And there are certain things that he wanted to do with it. But guess what? Charlie Flanagan, the Minister of Justice, happened to be his area, and he was wagging the finger at Tony O'Brien. You can do whatever you like in any hospital around the country, but you don't touch that one. So the political system at that time, they were more concerned about having the hospital opened, less so about the quality of care being delivered by that hospital. So round and round and round we go here, Greg.
All right, okay. Listen, Paddy, as always, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I really appreciate it. Professor Pat O'Connor, I know we had some slight technical issues, but thank you for your endeavours, and it's great to hear your views as always. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Apologies. I don't know where the gremlins are working overtime.
But you know what? We got there in the end, and that's all that matters. Thank you, Pat. And last but not least, Councillor Jack Murray, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. All right, 086 60 25,000. That's how you get in touch. We'll be back with news. It's going to be a minute late after this break. Stay right where you are.
When you need help with natural gas or LPG appliances or pipes, don't take any chances. Stay safe and always use a registered gas installer for installation, servicing, repair or removal. Otherwise, you're putting yourself and others at risk and breaking the law. Find a registered gas installer at rgi.ie.
Crawford Tiles and More Castlefin. January sale now on. Great discounts in store with up to 20% off tiles, bathware, flooring, plumbing, lights, vinyl and carpet. Job lots on display for sale. Delivery and fitting available. Crawford Tiles and More Castlefin. 9143942. January sale now on. Miss it and miss out.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
We have recycling all wrapped up this festive season. At this time of year, we have lots of wasted batteries. Recycle your batteries for free using the battery collection boxes in your local shop or at your local recycling centre. Visit brysonrecycling.org or donegalcoco.ie for information and opening times over the festive season. Recycle more with Donegal County Council.
Hi, my name is Simon. Hello?
This is your call to make a real difference. Aware are here for people living with depression and bipolar disorder. Now more than ever, we need your help for our phone and online support teams. You can change someone's world from your own home. Volunteer now at aware.ie. Proudly supported by Cadbury Dairy Milk.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's just gone 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. The driver of the Bosseran Expressway coach which caught fire at the Dry Arch roundabout outside Letterkenny last night has been commended for his actions. All 15 passengers on board had been safely evacuated before the bus became engulfed in flames. Bosseran says the incident was an exceptionally rare occurrence. It's confirmed a thorough investigation will be conducted. Kieran was on the bus which had been en route to Dublin before the driver turned back because he detected a problem. Kieran told Highland Radio News that initially the passengers didn't realise the severity of what was happening.
In the moment, you're not really thinking about anything, you're just getting people away and getting baggages and getting all that stuff out of there. Like it took 4 or 5 of us to open the baggage doors because the engine had stopped. There was people who had important belongings in there, and I know belongings don't matter in a crisis situation, but we didn't think at the time there was going to be a massive explosion. There were a few wee bangs, but there was nothing Hollywood about it. It fizzled and cracked for a good 20 minutes before it started to become a conflagration, and then it really did go up.
A Donegal deputy has called for further investment into the defective block scandal after the government recorded a state surplus of €5 billion in 2022. Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson, Deputy Pearse Doherty, says the figures from the latest fiscal monitor also show Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien underspent his budget by almost $250 million. Deputy Doherty says the government must stop penny pinching.
These figures today show that there is capacity in the state to deal with this, to clear up the legacy of the mistakes during the Celtic Tiger area when Fianna Fáil allowed for no regulation. So many families now that went through Christmas not knowing where their home will be or what type of home they will be in next Christmas because they have houses that are falling around them. We need to stop the nonsense that people will still be locked out of this scheme because the government are penny pinching.
8 in 10 people want the local property tax abolished. A survey from taxback.com found people believe it's unfair because it's not measured by income. More than a third say they don't believe the money is being spent well in a way that benefits communities. Just 12% said the tax should not be abolished because the money is needed to improve local amenities. The head of the HSE is admitting its winter plan and multi-year plans to deal with overcrowding clearly aren't sufficient. Public health care providers have been told to move to a 7/7 operating model to deal with the issue. That means they've been told to work at full capacity all week, but doctors have responded angrily to that call, saying they're already completely overstretched. HSE Chief Executive Stephen Mulvaney says respiratory illnesses continue to contribute in a major way to the crisis.
Clearly the winter plan and the multi-annual plans that we've been putting in place at this stage is not sufficient to deal with what we see as a clear patient safety risk in front of us. So that's partly because the levels of flu in particular are much higher than even our worst, most pessimistic modelling. So we've an exceptional season with both COVID, RSV and also flu. And unfortunately we haven't yet seen the peak of flu.
And people in the northwest are being urged to avoid social settings as flu and COVID cases rise. The west and northwest regions are seeing a significant rise in respiratory infections, resulting in a severe impact on the health service, which is experiencing one of its busiest ever periods. 390 cases of COVID-19 and 348 cases of flu were recorded in the public health area, including Donegal, in the week ending December 31st. With more, here's Emma Ryan.
Public Health Area F, which covers the northwest, including Donegal, is asking people to avoid attending social settings such as workplaces, schools or childcare facilities if they have respiratory symptoms. The call comes as COVID-19 and flu are widely circulating in the community, which means outbreaks are more likely to occur in busy settings, including hospitals and long-term care facilities. People are being urged to keep up to date with their flu and COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Anya McNamara, Area Director of Public Health Area F, says healthcare settings are extremely busy due to the unprecedented combination of very high levels of flu, COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses in the community. She added it is very important to avoid visiting healthcare and long-term residential settings if feeling unwell.
Cloudy with one or two bright spells at times in the morning. Later today, isolated showers will develop as cloud thickens from the west, strengthening southerly winds as well, with a band of more persistent rain and drizzle moving in during the afternoon and evening. Top temperatures today 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. Wet and blustery this evening as a band of rain and drizzle becomes more widespread. Fresh and blustery southerly winds will turn southwesterly as the rain clears to isolated showers later. Overnight lows temperatures 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow we'll see a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers to start with some cloud. One or two isolated showers will develop as the morning goes on before becoming more widespread and persistent in the afternoon. The showers may be heavy at times with hail possible as well. Blustery southerly winds strong at times with very strong gusts in coastal areas. Highs tomorrow 7 to 9. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock.
The obituary notice is for this Friday morning, January the 6th. The death has taken place of Margaret Flood, née McLaughlin, 5 Art Columkill, Letterkenny. Margaret's remains will repose at her daughter Hilda Colbert's residence at number 8 The Croft, Glencarscott, Letterkenny, today from 11 o'clock until 10 o'clock, with rosary at 9 o'clock. Removal from there tomorrow afternoon at 12:15, going to St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, via Art Columkill and Beechwood Avenue for 1 o'clock Requiem Mass, which can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards to New Leck Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to Archview Lodge Comfort Fund, care of any family member. House private, please, on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Margaret Rita McCormick, née Quigg, Gulladuff, Moville. Margaret's remains are reposing at her home. Funeral from her home on Sunday afternoon at 1:15. For 2 o'clock funeral mass in St Pius X Church, Moville, followed by burial in Ballybrack Graveyard. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations if desired to the Alzheimer's Unit, Ard Avine Carndunna, care of any family member. Margaret's funeral mass can be viewed live on movilleparish.com. The death has occurred of Ruby Stinson, Grahamstown, Ballintra, reposing at her late residence for walk-through only this evening from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock and tomorrow from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock. House strictly private at all other times, please. Funeral service in Drumholm Parish Church on Sunday afternoon at 12:30, followed by burial in Drumholm Graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to Drumholm Parish Church or the Irish Heart Foundation, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Peggy Morris, née Harkin, 95 Camas Road, Douglas Bridge, reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 11:20 for Requiem Mass in St Eugene's Church, Glenknock at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in Glenknock Cemetery. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. The death has taken place of Isabel Lockhart, Dromitine, Lockworth Point, Ardra. Her remains will repose at Chauvelin's Funeral Home, Sandfield, this evening from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock, followed by private removal to her residence. Funeral service at her home tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, followed by burial in Kilcashel Graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Ardra Methodist Church, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Catherine Kitty McConaughey, Corey, Portsalon, Donegal. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Removal from there at 10:30 tomorrow morning, arriving at St Columbus Church Mass Mount for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Rosary at 8 o'clock. Family time only, please, from 10 p.m. until 10 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the St Mary's Fanavolti and St Columbus Mass Mount Facebook page. Family flowers only, please. Donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Macateer funeral directors. The death has taken place of Michael Finlay, 193 Ballycolman Estate, Strabane, reposing at Quigley's Funeral Home this evening from 5 o'clock, with removal at 6 o'clock to St Mary's Church, Melmount, for Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Cremation afterwards in Lakelands Crematorium at 4 o'clock. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Grace Wilkie, née Houston, Drumore Letterkenny, and formerly Letchermore Drumkane. Removal from Grace's late residence this morning at 11:15, going to St Junan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for 12 noon Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Interment afterwards to New Leck Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if desired to the Society of St Vincent de Paul, care of any family member. And the death has occurred of Margaret McDade, Ballybow Temple, Cloughan, County Donegal. Removal from her late residence this morning at 10:30 for funeral mass in Our Lady of Perpetual Succour, Glenfin, with interment afterwards in Kilworth Cemetery, Glenfin. Requiem Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
And you're very welcome back to the second hour of the 9 till noon show. Good morning if you're just joining us. Very shortly, Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Co. Letterkenny Remelton will be joining us, answering your legal questions. Get involved in that conversation by asking your questions to 086 60 25,000. We have a couple of slots if you are quick. Also, Michael and Fanula will rejoin us for the first That's Entertainment of 2023. Looking forward to chatting to the guys as well to see what is keeping them informed and entertained and what have you. Some of your messages here before we go to the bingo numbers and a break. The money paid into the lotto used to go to the health system, yet one of our politicians sold it off and cycled off into the sunset. The ordinary person is getting passed from pillar to post, and it's all about who knows who. 23 billion euro is pumped into the health service annually, though. Sometimes maybe it's about how that money is spent rather than how much money there actually is. The health services problem has been going on forever with this same government, but yet we still vote them in. We've no one to blame but ourselves. The health service needs no more money. It's just an endless pit. Time to start over and chop from the top. Our health service is riddled with privatisation. Privatisation means profit. Profit means taking our cash out of the system. This is the issue, they say. Tell your guests when TDs, senators, councillors, etc. start working for the people and not themselves, then people might start to respect them. I'd nearly bet all your guests have private health care and will not be affected by the disaster of a healthcare system we have. Here lies the biggest problem. I see people who don't understand the issues ordinary people face try to sympathise and say they are fixing it. One question: why do TDs and ministers, senators, etc. need to be on such extortionate wages? And someone made some comment also too about I never have, no one in my family as far as I'm aware ever had private health insurance. We simply couldn't afford it. If we had honest and just fair government, the problems would not be there for protests. Another reportage on Enoch Burke, yet thousands of court orders are breached regularly and ignored for the Gardaí to say go back to court about it. I think Seamus Gunn has some commentary on the Enoch Burke situation. Mr. Burke has used this whole situation as well to get his message out there. So he has, I presume, welcomed the coverage of it. Of course, no one wants to be in prison for a third of the year, and it looks like he's potentially facing going back to prison because he continues to. Well, he's not breaching any court order at the moment, but he's still attending the school. He turned up at the school yesterday. But anyway, I'll chat to Seamus about that afterwards to see where that may go. But as I say, I think part of what he's doing, the sacrifice he feels he's making, is to have the conversation be happening out there, I presume. You can't express your views in Ireland. It's controlled by state frustration. Controlled states, frustrations are starting to boil over. They're crying about a wee bit of cow dung. As for Jack and the rest of them, in all parties, they are full of cow dung. If TDs only gave this much airtime to hospitals and nurses, I'm not condoning it, but it sounds like people are tired of BS from well-paid TDs. Greg, no type of assault on other people like that talked about is acceptable. If one needs to protest, put it in writing, pen to paper is the only acceptable way to express grievance. That's according to Mary. Could you ask Councillor Murray, have the people living in uninhabitable Micah homes been rehomed yet? And good morning, Greg. Lockdown protests were hushed up by the media. Not once did I hear any media let the people know when and where they were happening. And there's a whole other story in there, of course, in terms of a can of worms, which I don't want to open right now. But I do take your point. Right, okay. Again, thanks to Jack Murray, Pat O'Connor and Paddy Rooney for their contributions, and thanks to all of you for getting involved in the convo as well. We'll be joined by Seamus Gunn after the bingo numbers in a quick break.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 6th of January. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S5. It's game number 1. The numbers are 9, 59, 81, 86, 34, 56, 58, 45, 39, and finally 48. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. Great news! The house-proud group stock disposal sale continues today and all this weekend at the Strabane store. With so much stock still to clear, prices have been cut again on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud Abercorn Square, Strabane. Don't miss out. Sale also at Oma Store.
Winter sale at Brian McCormick Sports now on, in-store and online. Kids and adults, Nike and Adidas track tops and bottoms, clearing from €15. Women's fitness pants, t-shirts and shorts, reduced to clear. Getting fit this year? Visit the winter sale at bmcsports.ie. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
So you're saying mental health difficulties can be smaller things?
Yeah.
Like trouble sleeping?
Yeah.
Or if I'm always stressed, like?
Yeah.
Or often anxious?
They're all part of your mental health.
Thought those were separate.
Nope. They're all connected.
Hey, how do you know all this anyway?
Sure, I've been there myself.
Anxiety, ongoing stress, low mood or trouble sleeping?
They're all part of your mental health. Make the connection and find support that can help at yourmentalhealth.ie from the HSE.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda, made for Ireland.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Okay, right. Good morning to Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Co. Letterkenny and Ramelton. Good morning to you, Seamus.
Morning, Greg.
A very happy new year to you and your staff and your family and friends.
Yes, yeah, and the same to everybody there, Greg, and all your listeners and many that there are, and happy Nullag na Man as well.
Yes, indeed, of course. And it's great to have you back so early in the new year. And we're going to get to listeners' questions in a moment. But just interested, because we spoke previously about teacher Enoch Burke. Before we talk about how things have developed post-Christmas, how can you be released from jail if you don't purge your contempt? And it seems that court order no longer applies. Well, it clearly does no longer apply. So how does that work?
Well, yeah, it is interesting, and I'm sure people do wonder. But to say that the order is no longer effective is not the situation. Actually, there was an application with the judge on around the 21st of December made a decision that this was one of those very rare cases, indeed, in which you have Mr. Burke, who was incarcerated for upwards of 100 plus days since September, and he had not purged his contempt. And the judge took the view that the coercive aspect of that order was not working, and it wasn't going to work, because Mr. Burke, who is a man certainly has his own beliefs and convictions and is prepared to stand by them, had made it clear that he wasn't going to purge his contempt.
So he beat the system, regardless of what your anyone's views are, what he did or not. The sanction was seen not to work. In fact, I think a comment was made that he was using it to his advantage. So he beat that part of the system, some might say.
That certainly is a comment. Would I agree with it? No, I wouldn't, because I think that the longer that he remained incarcerated, the more support he was likely to garner. So I think that the judge in this instance took a sensible approach on the basis that order, and this is very, very important and quite pertinent to it, that order remains in place, and that when he was being released, he made it clear to him that the only threat to his liberty was if he was again in breach of that order. So that order hasn't been...
Okay, well, let me ask you then.
He may have to look down a different route.
But if that is the case, he entered Wilson's Hospital School in Westmeath yesterday at 8:30 a.m. He sat in class until 3:45. He didn't teach anyone. The Gardaí said that they had no hand actor part in this, that it was a civil matter. And my understanding is that the school have to go back to court for another finding against Enoch Burke. So if the original order was in place, how can he attend the school? How can the Gardaí say they have no role in the matter if it's equally as enforceable as it was pre-Christmas?
Because they at this instance, the school will be obliged maybe to take further action themselves. The judge has said that the coercive aspect of the order does not seem to have had the impact that he hoped it may have had and would usually have in these type of cases. So it is, though, and the Gardaí are also correct, it is a civil matter. So there will have to be, or likely to be, another application to maybe look at alternative sanctions. And this is something that was hinted upon by Justice O'Meara back on the 21st of December. And there are other options open to the court, including, as again, incarceration again, but maybe a monetary type penalty might have more impact in this situation. His assets could be looked at as well with a view to maybe attachment. So
yeah, but you see, this is
avenues that the court could still look at
if they go
heading of the order.
Yes, but if they go down that route, there is an awful lot of people in this country that would be prepared to dig very, very deep by way of a GoFundMe or whatever to meet any financial penalty that may be divvied out to him, so he could frustrate the system in that regard too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I've said, he's a person of his convictions. He holds them dearly. He's prepared to stand up for them. He says that he's entitled to his religious beliefs. He has a constitutional right of freedom of expression of his faith, and he's going to stand by that, and he's going to test that. And that is yet to be played out in the courts. Even earlier this week, it might have gone slightly under the radar, but he made an application for an injunction to prevent the disciplinary proceedings going ahead, which were scheduled for later this particular month, and that's due to come before the court again next week. So we're going to be back in there. In fact, on his application to stop the proceedings going ahead on the 9th.
And do you think the motivation for that, and how can we speak to motivation, is that in some way that actually does draw a line underneath it? In other words, once that hearing is convened, and if it were to find that he was in breach of his contract or whatever, and they dismissed him, I mean, obviously, presumably he could appeal that, but at that point then, if he continued to turn up at the school, it would be a very different matter. So presumably it's in his interest to keep, if he wants to keep this momentum going, to keep that disciplinary process going with the school.
Well, yeah, that's a point that, well, if he's thinking tactically, that is something that may have occurred to him. I wouldn't think that it's really appropriate to be using the courts in that manner. I have a view on the way in which, and the sensitivities of this particular case, the way in which it was dealt with in the first instance, and whether that it is in the interest of the school, but more particularly is it interest of, there's an individual, a child at the centre of this as well, and whether it's in their interest at all that this should be out in the public forum in the manner in which it is. And to have avoided that in the first place, I think would have been preferable, and the case dealt with in a different manner within the school, within the remit of the Wilson's Hospital School in Westmeath, without it coming to this stage where we're back into court. We're in court this week. The case will be back in next week. There'll be a disciplinary process which is running. There's also the matter then of how do we deal with the allegation that the court order is not being adhered to, that it's actually been flaunted in that he's turning up at school, while the whole essence of that injunction was to prevent him from attending the school. So we have all of this litigation out there going on, and certainly it does gain momentum, and it's in the public domain. And obviously,
and let's not forget the reason,
and therefore it is commented upon.
Yeah,
but
and this
my view is that could have been avoided in the first instance, and it should have been avoided in handling the matter in a similar, but maybe not so much in the public domain.
And this all stems from the school asked him to refer to a person as they instead of he. So in other words, instead of saying he's over there, he was asked to say they's over there, or they are over there, and that is what this is fundamentally all about. It's not why he ended up in court. He ended up in jail. Because he refused to adhere to an order to stay away from the school while a disciplinary process was he wasn't put in jail because he refused to say they. He was put in jail because he refused to stay away from the school effectively whilst suspended pending. Okay, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's a lot of interest in it. We're going to get to your questions with Seamus Gunn after these messages.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Maldron hotels really are an escape from the norm. That's why we've left the studio to record this for real. Live at a show. Oh, please take your seats. Second row from the back. Join us, or wrap up and go stargazing along the coast, pick up some bits at a local market, and cozy up in a snug somewhere special. Wherever you go, you can save on every room every night when you click on Maldron at maldronhotels.com. T's and C's apply.
Sam is an expert at splitting a bill. If you didn't order a starter, you're not paying for a starter. But he's not an expert when it comes to electric cars. Should he go for mild hybrid, full hybrid? Is he ready for fully electric? All he really knows is that he wants a plug-in one. Luckily, Nissan have been giving people help and advice on electrified vehicles since we introduced the all-electric Leaf back in 2010. So, wherever you are on your journey to electric, head to your local Nissan dealer to see which electrified vehicle suits you. Plug-in or otherwise. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
When they got older and when I was able to start putting my toe back into paid employment, you're back at the bottom of the heap and you suddenly, a woman of a certain age and you're on minimum wage, and it's hard to start again and to have lost those years of pension rights and climbing the career and career success.
Learn more about care and gender inequality in Ireland at ihrec.ie. From the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. We're all human, we're all equal.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. Dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Further lines added in McElhenney's biggest ever winter sale. Grab your bargain of the year with huge savings on fashion, footwear, homeware and much more. Explore the collection online or visit us in-store for this unmissable sale event. Don't wait around, as when these amazing offers are gone, they're gone. Hurry, the McElhenney's winter sale must end soon.
Arno's Hotel Dunfanny are celebrating 100 years in business. The birthday bash will kick off on Friday the 6th of January through to Sunday the 8th of January, with loads of events and celebrations planned across the weekend. Highland Radio will be broadcasting the Jive Time Show live on Friday from 2:30, and Jimmy Stafford will bring the Saturday Shuffle live from the hotel from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. We'll have great music, interviews and giveaways across both days. If you're in the area, come along and join us at Arno's Hotel 100th Birthday Bash.
All right, you're very welcome back to the programme. Just finally, before we get to questions, Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn & Co. Does how things transpired with Mr. Burke and the judge's comments as it relates to, the benefit of imprisonment, does that set a precedent or anything? Has that changed anything in regard?
Just before we finish, I was just going to make that point to you, Greg, that this is, and the judge said it at the time, it's one of those, it has been done before. He has said it is rare, but in exceptional circumstances where the incarceration penalty is not seen to be working. There's a very practical point as well, I think that might have been touched on, was that the cost of this to the taxpayer was upwards of 100 plus days, and that cost was being laid at the taxpayer's door. And again, realistically speaking, if we're not getting anywhere except what he hinted at or indicated that this was not this in this particular case, the route to go was to give him back his freedom and to see how it developed with the order. Now we know how it has developed. So the next step is probably up to the school and see how it plays out. But I think you will be mentioning it again. It'll certainly be in the news next week.
I'll just put this comment to you while you're on, rather than reading it when you're off air. It's interesting how Mr. Gunn suggested hitting the pocket might be a means of getting Mr. Burke to toe the so-called line. Is this indicative of our coercive legal court system? Hitting the pocket can knock anyone back, especially if you aren't of limited means.
Yeah, well, look, it's an observation, and we certainly take it on board as we try to do with all of these. But it is my view that when there is an order in place of the court, we live in a democracy. We can't flaunt those. We can't say that they have no impact or effect. We have a situation here which is very, very unusual and extremely rare, where as a result of it, it has not got the impact or has not got the result that it was designed for. So then we stand back and we look at where we are, but we do not vary the order. The order remains in place and is there to be. It's there to be carried out and to be respected. And if you lose that, we lose the basis of all our democracy, and we're on a very slippery slope at that point in time. So I would be of the view that court orders do have to be taken seriously and have to be carried through and enforced. Now, in this particular instance, that aspect of it just has not been effective. But there are, and I'm just giving you the scenario of what alternatives there may be, and which maybe a court may look at as other means of enforcing the order, not excluding again the incarceration aspect of it. But
yeah, I think too, really.
But at the same time, you cannot water down the effect of a High Court order.
No, and I think too, what might be helpful is that we could be having the exact same conversation, I presume, regardless of who the person was and the reason for this order being put against them. It's not about, your views are based on the legal element of it, not about your views as to what led to all of this. I think that's fair enough to say, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. No, absolutely. But as I'm just emphasising, and it is worth emphasising that an order has to be carried through, and it has to be observed, and it has to be enforced. And if it's not, then we're all in a poor situation.
All right, okay. We'll do a couple of will questions because we don't do them routinely, so we might take a few to as we get underway. Right, Pierce, good morning to you. Your question for Seamus.
Hello, Greg. How are you doing now?
Good.
I inherited a bit of ground there back over 4 years ago in 1988, and I don't seem to be able to get the deeds for it. There is deeds and all for it, but every time I go to the solicitor, they tell me that they're in a box or they're ready to be dealt with. They're in, is it Roscommon or down there now? And it's gone on over 4 years, and I was just wondering what is the setup. I have the dealings number now.
Well, I think that Pierce, what you should do is you should certainly keep the line of communication open with the persons and the people that are dealing with it. When you reference to Roscommon, that is now the location of the Property Registration Authority. You have referenced a dealing number, which is also very helpful in that would mean that there has been a dealing or an application lodged, which may infer that references is referable to yours. I'm not in a position to say whether it is or it isn't, but that would be seen to be the relevance of it. So you can check out that dealing number. You can probably even go online yourself and maybe access it. But I think that if you inherited it, likely came through an administration or a probate, and if it's got to the stage where there is a dealing number for your application for registration, well then the completion should be certainly in the pipeline. So, and the fact that 4 years has passed, I'm not going to comment on that at all, because there can be situations where there might be subdivisions of holdings or etc. There could be mapping that can lead to such delays, and even post-COVID, etc. So I think keep the line of communication open with your representative. I think you are certainly getting there. I wouldn't get overly alarmed about the 4 years. That can happen.
All right, so you're in the system then with that number, Pierce.
Yeah, and what is kind of the time frame on it, or?
Well, I think you'd want to check that out with the PRA yourself, or the people that are or your legal representatives, and they could give you certainly should give you some guideline on it. And they're quite helpful themselves in the Property Registration Authority in relation to
Have you
such
contacted the PRA, the Property Registry Authority, directly yourself, Pierce?
I have. One time you used to be able to get through to it by the phone. Now you have to do it all online, and I wouldn't be back into online stuff.
That way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that's the complication. You see, this is the way we're moving. All right. Well, maybe there's someone close to you that might be able to just help you out with the online element of it. It seems to be the path to go. I hope you get sorted soon, Pierce. Thank you for your time. Greatly appreciated. What happens to my estate if I do not make a will, which I presume is never advisable, but they want to know, will it be split evenly with my family? The reason I ask, a recent family will cost over $5,000 in fees for a pretty small estate, and I think they must be trying to avoid, maybe they're saying, look, when I'm gone, it's not going to be my problem. I'm not spending $5,000 while I'm alive.
No, but it could be spent thereafter on those that come after the individual if they don't put any arrangements in place. So what happened? The question they're asking is what happens? Well, under the 1965 Succession Act, the estate will be divided in accordance with that, and it'll depend on who the next of kin are. If there is no will, 2/3 will pass to a spouse, if there is a spouse, and 1/3 among the children, and divided equally. And that's your starting point. We haven't got the background as to who the next of kin are in this instance, but that's the way the estate would be divided under the Succession Act. I would always recommend, and during the COVID period, a lot of people were making that sensible decision of putting their arrangements in place. Because remember this, once they're in place, you can always readdress. Circumstances change, nothing stays the same, and at all times events and people's lives are evolving, so they can be reviewed, but they're certainly worth having a look at. The other alternative, I have to say, is this: during one's life, if a person makes a decision as to to dispose of their property, they can do so by way of a voluntary transfer during their lifetime to members of their family or to whomsoever they wish, taking on board any tax implications that may arise as a result of that. So there's a couple of options, but I think in the first instance I would put arrangements in place.
Interestingly, that leads quite nicely onto our next question. A caller signed over a plot of land to her son with its own access. The caller owns a cottage, and when the documents were being drawn up by the solicitor land registry, the right of way to the cottage was included as part of the land signed over. Who is now responsible for this land?
The owner of the land will be responsible for it if it's shared or used by others. In such circumstances, there could be an arrangement, and it would be, I think, practical to have an arrangement in place for the upkeep and maintenance of it. But it would fall to the person who is the registered owner. Now, you could have done, there's a couple of different ways you could have done that. You could have transferred the property with just an easement for a right of way in respect of the access, retaining the ownership of it with the cottage, or transferring the ownership of it with the plot, which seems to be the case here. In that instance, they're likely to have reserved a right of access to the cottage. But I think it's a good idea if there's more than one to regarding the use of the access, that they would share the responsibility and the cost of upkeeping and maintaining it. And then there might be another tricky little point about to be at least looked at, is that of insurance and who insures it. But it would, again, usually fall to the owner to insure it with their own property.
Okay, if the High Court gives an order for a person to pay a settlement and the person refuses to pay that, what is the punishment? Can it include jail?
Well, that now is another aspect of court orders that is slightly different from what we touched on earlier on. If there is an order in place and it has not been carried through, and for some reason or other it hasn't been enforced, and it's for a particular, if it's a case where there's a particular sum of money to be paid, then you have to go down another route whereby you would be applying to have that sum of money well charged against an asset, and then maybe seek the sale of that asset going forward in order to realise the capital. So there are all actually civil remedies as such. There's no default situation in that case because it is a civil claim. It's not a criminal matter. So there's no, we're going back to the contempt situation. That's entirely different than the scenario now put forward by this particular caller. So there are steps that would have to be taken to enforce it. They'll have to go back to their legal advisors, and there likely is, you're looking at another set of maybe proceedings, what's called well-charging proceedings, and hopefully there's an asset. And that maybe should have been looked at before they went down or embarked upon the route on litigation in the first instance, and maybe I would expect that it would be. But the door is not closed. You have to follow it up, and it's likely that you're looking at another set of proceedings, or could be.
My child broke his hand early last year. 8 weeks after the event, the fracture was picked up by the physiotherapist. His hand was x-rayed twice and missed twice. He's now facing surgery, which is thought will not fix the fracture as the bones have now parted. Do we have a case against the HSE? And if so, how would we go about pursuing it?
Yeah, well, they're indicating a potential claim for medical negligence. That's the way the question has been phrased, and such actions are expensive, and they're not to be taken on lightly. I've said that before. However, from the caller's point of view, it sounds like a situation that obviously they are not content with the result, and they're making an allegation that a fracture should have been picked up earlier. And if that's the case, the first step, I would think, is to get a full copy, which they're entitled to, of all the medical records relevant to the procedure from the time of the first admission to whether it was A&E or it was the hospital proper, and then once they have the records, they'd have to be considered, and they'd have to be passed on to an expert. Probably in this instance, you're looking down the route of an orthopedic consultant, and preferably a hand orthopedic consultant who specialises in such type of diagnosis, and they would have to be independently assessed, those notes, and an opinion obtained that was this likely in the circumstances to have been missed, or is it reasonable that it could have been missed? And if so, that it may not give rise to a claim in negligence, an act of omission in this case, because they didn't pick up on the X-ray, or it may do if an expert, maybe it's a radiologist type of question, if a similar, in similar circumstances, met with the same background, if they would have picked it up, it should have been picked up, and it has led to complications, then that could very well give rise to a claim and to be put forward and to be evaluated in respect of damages. So the first step would be to take up all the records, and then probably going to definitely need legal advice at some stage, and would need a consultant, maybe one outside this jurisdiction.
Wow, so even before you get to the point of actually finding whether or not there was something worth pursuing, there's a lot of effort and compilation has to be gone through.
You're entitled to your medical records, and you will be able to take them up. But there's a bit of background, a bit of legwork, and then you have to consider such reports, an independent report such as that would not come cheap, and there's no point in misleading people in that they have to be prepared for that going forward. But in such scenarios, they certainly are worth looking at.
All right. Just time for one more, if you don't mind. There are roadworks happening in front of my house. I was looking at the land boundaries to see if it was owed any compensation for the work. When I was looking at this, I discovered a huge error. According to the plans, my neighbour owns half of my driveway and half of my house. I flagged the error, and will have to pay €1,500 to get it rectified, even though the error was not on my side. Can I dispute or fight this?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to get some legal advice on it. It is not unusual, I have to say, and particularly since the PRA went digital with the land registry maps, that there has been discrepancies, and it has been quite common and at times maybe a little bit alarming, but certainly not a situation that cannot be sorted out and rectified. The first step to take in all of these is to assess the situation, assess the problem, and then move it on from there. You're going to need probably a digital land surveyor to do up a report and certainly a map, and then there may well be needed a deed of rectification, and that's maybe what the person has been quoted on in respect of what would be involved as far as the legalities of it are concerned. So as to who is responsible for that, we're not really in a position to comment. It's certainly worth remedying, and the sooner the better. Has it anything to do with the local authority? Again, you'd have to look at the registrations. You might have to look at previous dealings to see how it happened in the first instance. Is it worth parking the blame with somebody else? That's for another day. And again, it's a matter for the individual to take on board as to whether they want to go down that route. For the purpose of getting it rectified, of course, there'll be fees involved.
Nothing's easy, is it? Okay. But there's always a way.
We're still here, right?
There's always a way. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn & Co. With offices in Letterkenny and Ramelton, and a strong online presence as well, Seamus.
Yes, thank you, Greg. Yeah, DonegalSolicitors.ie or simply just gun.ie should get us, Greg.
2 N's.
No, 2 N's, no E. Okay. No holster.
All right, take care of yourself. See you soon. Thank you very much indeed. Seamus Gunn there. 086 60 25,000.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Fly with Loganair from the City of Derry Airport and save up to 15% on 900,000 seats during the big summer sale with promo code SUNNY15, including flights to London Stansted and Liverpool.
Fly with me.
Book by the 9th of January at loganair.co.uk. Travel from the 26th of March. Subject to availability, exclusions apply. Loganair, for all the times.
With the ongoing war in Ukraine affecting the cost of energy, many of us are facing a challenging winter. Through Budget 23, government is introducing a range of supports to lessen the financial impact on families, households and businesses, and will continue to monitor the situation in the coming months to protect those in difficulty. It's important that everyone stays warm and well, but where safe and possible to do so, reducing energy use can also reduce bills. Changes like turning your thermostat down by 1 degree and considering how often you use energy-intensive appliances like tumble dryers can make a big difference. For information on available supports and energy-saving advice, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Raymond Sweeney here from Ben Sweeney Euronics to let you know about a great tumble dryer that will save you time and energy. The Blomberg 8kg dryer has a selection of sensor programs that allows you to decide exactly how dry you'd like your laundry, and smart technologies to help you reduce your energy costs. It also comes with an amazing 7-year parts and labour warranty. Call into us and see for yourself at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, or in the shopping centre, Dunlow.
For all your training needs, Northwest Forestry Services Training Department Ballybuffet offer a wide range of courses from training bodies such as NPTC City and Guilds, QQI, LANTRA and ABA International. Courses include all land-based services such as chainsaw, tree climbing and rescue, pesticides, working in heights and ATV training. Other courses offered include first aid responder, manual handling and building safety, to name but a few. For a full list of training courses and availability, contact Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet on 074 9132033.
The Brussels Eye in the Sky is watching you. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
New satellites to inspect all farms every 5 days. Battle of the Breeds, we reveal which suckler breed secured the top weanling prices. Jail for fraudster involved in online tractor and farm machinery scam. And following recent savage dog attacks, we detail your legal rights and how to deal with a dog worrying sheep on your farm.
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
At Ulster Bank, we have now begun to close current and deposit accounts. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. You must take action now. If you are still relying on your personal or business bank account and in need of support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Don't know if you know Alice and Pat. Late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates, Solicitors, Stranola.
The huge January sale is now on at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Get 2 pair of jeans for €70. A selection of shirts, knitwear, jackets and suits at half price. Great discounts on top labels like Superdry, Penguin, Mishmash, Remus, Umo and more. Don't miss out on big savings in the January sale now on at Watson Menswear, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Nunes, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
All right, let's have a look at what the weather forecast has in store for us. I actually have to open it because I always forget to do so. Right, okay. And I can tell you that a mostly dry but cloudy start, but there will be 1 or 2 bright spells at times. Later, isolated showers will develop as cloud thickens from the west ahead of strengthening southerly winds. A band of more persistent rain and drizzle will move in during the evening, the afternoon and evening. Highest temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees. So it's not going to be very pleasant, I think it's fair to say. I want to say a very happy birthday to Eugene Boner. He's in Carrickmaquigley in Redcastle, who's 90 today. Eugene, a very happy birthday to you from all of us here at Highland Radio, but especially from Suzanne and the boys, passing on their love to you today. Tony Duffy from Letterkenny, he's our postman. I can't believe he's retiring. A familiar face that we will not see in his post office uniform at the very least. We wish him all the best in his retirement, whatever he decides to do. He's got a bit more time for himself. Tony, thank you for everything over all of the years. It's very much appreciated. Thanks, Greg, for reading my comment on air this week. The Errigal Road potholes have been repaired. Hopefully Donegal County Council follow this up with resurfacing work, as this is the main route to the west of the county. Thanks again. It's our pleasure. Before COVID and the war in Ukraine, there was no doctors taking on any more patients. The hospitals were full. The country was full to bursting and still taking in more and more people. What I'm trying to say for the services there's too many people in this country. You improve. I mean, our population is 3 million less than it was a couple of hundred years ago. You ramp up services based on the population. We can't have a system where, there are people would love the world to be depopulated. There are people with quite high profile positions, particularly as it relates to the climate and environment, that think there are too many people, that believe the world needs to be depopulated. My view would be, we're all humans here. We all have a shared space on this planet. You don't blame each other. You improve services, don't you? Hi, Greg. Great show as usual. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. If government wanted to make a €100 million a year, they could introduce private Irish car plates. It raised loads in the UK. I proposed this to local TDs, and to scrap VRT, money would be used for something good. Yeah, private car plates. Why not? I think a lot of people would like that. I don't know why we don't have them. Do they have them in other European countries as well? I know Britain's not part of the EU, but do they have private number plates in the likes of France, Germany, Spain, Portugal? Or in other words, is that something we can do locally here in Ireland? Does anyone know if there is Mass at 12 in the cathedral today? Yes, their Mass times today are 12 noon and 7 p.m. There was Mass at 8 and 10 as well, but Mass today at 12 noon and 7 p.m. Why should a teacher be forced to address a pupil in an abnormal way, which is against their religious beliefs? Well, you're calling it abnormal. Is the word they abnormal? As I say, it's not a hill I'd be prepared to die on. I would have people might come in with names X1 or something like that there. Is that abnormal? It might be abnormal. Would you refuse to call them by that name? Like, it literally is just the fact that he declined to say they instead of he or she, but they anyway. And you view them as abnormal, or that is abnormal. So obviously you're going to support Enoch Birkin. You're perfectly entitled to do so. Right, let's take a break before the news.
Great news. The Houseproud Group Stock Disposal Sale continues today and all this weekend at the Strabane store, with so much stock still to clear, prices have been cut again on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud, Abercorn Square, Strabane. Don't miss out. Sale also at Oma Store.
Thinking about joining AIB? What if by changing your bank, you could also change the way you bank? Just watch. At AIB, we don't make technology for you to bank. We make it for you to live, with all your everyday banking needs at your fingertips. Joining AIB takes just a few simple steps. Discover how to become a customer by visiting aib.ie. AIB, we back doing. Allied Irish Banks plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €40 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
At Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Have you seen that Grant Shoes Buncrana have their sale on?
Yeah, I love Grant Shoes. They're the best for comfortable shoes, amazing service, great value, and better still, Grants are local and family run.
Grant Shoes Buncrana, sale now on.
Would you like to join the Highland Radio News and Current Affairs team? If you are an experienced or newly qualified journalist, why not apply to join the Highland Radio team in breaking the latest stories across the Northwest and beyond? You can apply by forwarding your CV to hr@highlandradio.com or by post. The closing date for applications is Friday, January the 13th. For more details, check out the job spot section of highlandradio.com.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
All right, that's entertainment with Michael and Fanula on the way, but at 11 o'clock on the button. Let's get a news update and say good morning, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. One of the 15 passengers who escaped uninjured after the bus in which they were travelling in burst into flames in Letterkenny last night has described how all of a sudden the coach was engulfed in flames. The expressway service had just begun its journey to Dublin when issues with the bus started to emerge. After turning and making its way back to Letterkenny, the coach caught fire. All passengers managed to escape uninjured. There's been a further drop in the number of people waiting on a trolley at Letterkenny University Hospital. As the number of patients without a bed at Irish hospitals reached a new record high earlier this week, there were 56 people on a trolley at Letterkenny University Hospital. That's dropped to 42 today, according to latest figures from the INMO. Well, the head of the HSE is admitting its winter plan and multi-year plans to deal with overcrowding clearly aren't sufficient. Public healthcare providers have been told to move to a 7/7 operating model to deal with the issue. That means they've been told to work at full capacity all week, but doctors have responded saying they're already completely stretched. A Donegal deputy has called for further investment into the defective block scandal after the government recorded a state surplus of €5 billion in 2022. Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson, Deputy Pearse Doherty, says the figures from the latest fiscal monitor also show that Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien underspent his budget by almost €250 million. Politics is becoming more toxic. That's according to Councillor Jack Murray, who says a tax on elected representatives has become somewhat acceptable. It comes after a bag of excrement was thrown at Minister Anne Rabbitte and Senator Kieran Cannon at a public meeting in Galway on Wednesday night. People in the Northwest are being urged to avoid social settings as flu and COVID cases rise. The West and Northwest regions are seeing a significant rise in respiratory infections, resulting in a severe impact on the health service. And Ireland's annual inflation rate has fallen to its lowest level in 8 months. Eurostat estimates the country's annual rate was 8.2% last month, compared to 9% in November. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Adele Cashman, liver transplant recipient, encourages you to talk about organ donation with your family.
People say it's the gift of life, and that's almost become a cliche, but it literally is the gift of new life. It's just so important for people to talk about organ donation because it's not something I would have given a second thought to before it became my life.
For information, visit hse.ie/organ donation and start talking about organ donation today. From the HSE.
Okay, and it's a very warm welcome and a very happy new year to Michael Leddy, writer and blogger, and our own Fionnuala Rabbit for the first That's Entertainment of 2023. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, and Happy New Year to you and to everyone listening.
Loud and clear, of course.
Good.
And good morning to you too, Fionnuala. How are you keeping?
Good morning. I'm keeping not
Good
too
to have
bad
you with
now.
us. Your list a bit light, Fionnuala. I think it's the same with Lee Gooch asked me this morning. Because I used to give him recommendations of things to watch because we have similar tastes in a show or a film or something.
Yes.
I had nothing. I had
You
absolutely nothing.
You just kind of
I
divide.
think it's a combination of a few things. I think once it's the post-Christmas slump, which I have to say I find myself finding stuff that I know I've seen and that I know I enjoyed because you kind of just want that little bit of a
comfort food
yeah,
TV.
Exactly. I'm rewatching the whole of Modern Family and loving it. So that kind of a thing that you find yourself doing, and then it's very early. None of the new stuff has started yet, but finally the advertising has started to come up. I think for new stuff coming in the next few weeks on Sky Atlantic and a few things like that. The new dramas. So hopefully,
yes,
another week or so.
And neither of you even had a look at Kaleidoscope that's been released on Netflix. It's number one in Ireland at the moment. At the beginning of it, it suggests to you that everyone's delivered episodes in different orders. There's 9 episodes. They're of different colours, I think. And I think I started watching Yellow. I don't know if it's the same. Maybe everyone starts at the same. I don't know.
I think you start with the same.
I didn't last very long with it, to be honest with you. I just
was it more to do with the mood you were in or the show?
Just the way it was being put together. It just didn't.
Yeah, it's an interesting
stuff, you know.
It's kind of like that. Remember the Black Mirror episode, which was randomized? You could pick and choose what you do. So it's the same sort of thing, except done as a series. I've read about it. I've not seen it. That's why I'm interested in kind of what you have to say, because I haven't made my mind up about whether to bother with it, because it seems like, is it just a gimmick without a story? You know what I mean? Is it just gimmicky? That would worry me. That I'd be like, do I really want to spend like 9 hours on something that's just a sort of a...
How come we all watch the same thing in different order?
Because it tracks...
The way they do it is that it's done that you don't have to watch it all in a row.
Yeah,
you could, the way that
it randomizes.
I just checked. Well, no, because I just checked mine just to see, and mine starts black, green, and yellow is number 3.
Right. Well, yellow was number 1 for
you.
me.
Okay.
Yep. Anyone out there watched it and enjoyed it or otherwise, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, let us know. I'm just curious if any of you do. I'm not in the mood for anything so clever.
Right, yeah, I get it.
Too early in the year.
I've still got Christmas brain or something.
It's too early to be checking into something that requires a lot
of
thought.
I agree. The World Cup, the darts, and Coronation Street and Emmerdale.
I'm amazed at all the people that watch darts.
It's astonishing what they've done with that sport. It truly is.
It's not something. It's not something I've looked at since back in the day when it used to be 1, they had pints, and 2, then it was like rows of all the people in it were like in rows of picnic tables.
Yeah.
And they just kept roaring and shouting at
it. Well, now it's now everyone's encouraged just to go crazy.
Yeah, it was on in a pub I was in a few nights back, and I was amazed at how slick and big it had got. I really haven't watched it either.
I posted a GIF on my Facebook not so long ago where it was, how good sportsmanship was at the time. I think it was Jockey Wilson. One of his opponent put a cigarette in his mouth, just before he threw, and he took the lighter out and lit it for him. And it just goes to show how life has changed.
Yeah, they were all mates.
That's not the point. They were friendly. The point was he was standing on an hockey on national television having a ciggy before he threw
it. Yeah, it was.
What was then considered a sport, as they were drinking pints and smoking cigarettes.
But now it's
very
new players
anything that has skill has got to be a sport, surely. I mean, skill is the key thing.
But now the players are
a certain amount of skill. I'm not sure if I'd call it a sport.
But fitness is important to be able to stay focused.
I'm not taking away from darts. Darts is a sport. I'm saying we wouldn't call everything a sport. But it's just I'm gonna have to watch it because I'm amazed by the amount of people who are apparently. I need to know what is it 9 6s or 6 9s or something like that. I need to know. I don't know. It's like we were supposed to. 2 guys were up against each other and they had the exact same score.
You're really starting from the beginning.
I'm getting right into it.
They start off at 5:01.
No, I know that.
Oh yeah,
I know. No, but there was something that they had like 6 shots or something like that.
There was a
competition thing.
There was one particular leg in the final. Whereby the Holy Grail is 9 darts, where you get from 5:01 and out on a double in 9 darts. And you had this situation whereby both players had thrown 6 perfect darts. Then the player then threw 8 perfect darts but missed the double. And then his opponent came up and threw 3 perfect darts. So you had both of them just on the brink of a 9-darter and one of them actually achieving it on the biggest stage in the biggest match.
Yeah.
It was just a remarkable...
I have said it right.
Yeah. Well, you were close.
That was... But I'm like, I've never
using the same numbers.
It was so bad what you tried to explain. And then I tried to explain. It's like, I know 5:01. It's not that. It's not that. I'm not silly. It's 6 or 3 darts.
I got the basic premise of it.
Oh, right.
I did used to, you know.
Jack Ryan.
Yes.
New series is back on Amazon, right? This has been out a wee while.
A couple of weeks, yeah. It came out the 21st or 22nd of December. It came out in time for Christmas. The new 3rd season, and the show was commissioned already for a 4th season. John Krasinski will be doing no more. He's leaving after 4. But yes, it's a hit. The 3rd season has got a good response from the critics. I started watching it, and I see here checking 81% from critics for season 3, 78% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So people embracing it to the same 4 to 1 ratio, or 4 out of 5 people like it. It delivers. If you're familiar with the show, then definitely it delivers.
I think I could watch the first 2 series
again
comfortably without knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's that kind of show, and it's been a few years. Like, it's 2018 since it started, so we've had a gap.
I can see his face and him climbing up in an airplane at the start.
That sounds about right. You also see him. He's always in a car driving through a city, looking out the window mournfully. That's the thing that comes up in all the seasons. He's always looking very.
They took my life and made a show out of it.
Yeah.
I thought he was good. I thought John
think he's great.
Really
I know I enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it, but I genuinely think I can probably rewatch the first 2 series.
He's really good because he brings. The character is meant to be that bookish, nerdish type, and he brings that to it. But you also believe that when it comes down to it, when a bad guy comes in, that he can handle himself and kick ass and get them down while still being a bit of a nerd. So that's the line he walks. The 3rd season, you don't need to have seen season 1 or 2. It's a clean break. He's on a mission. It's the usual thing. He's got intel, but maybe the people higher up the chain don't believe him. Those fools. And maybe he
Have they never watched Jack
24?
Ryan?
Have they ever watched 24? Yeah. And maybe he has to go rogue to get the job done. I'm not going to say
how far in.
I'm only in just the first episode. I just watched the first one on Wednesday night, and I'm going to savour it over the next 8 weeks because I always do that. Fanula gets annoyed when I talk about that.
Yeah, but I want prepared to do that commitment. There was enough in the first episode that you're saying, right? Okay, this is going to.
Yes, I watched a lot of episode 1s this week, and I would say this might be one of the top 2 because it established everything you need to know: the stakes, who the bad guys are, what Jack needs to find out, and where he is. It established everything in 1 hour, and it was great crack, and the action was good.
Yeah, and I watched over Christmas The Onion Island. Is it called Onion Island?
Glass
Onions. Glass Onions.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see I'm in the Fanula camp. It was fine, but it was a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
You weren't blown away?
No, you weren't blown away, Fanula, weren't you?
No, I liked it. I did like it, and I thought it was good, and there was a lot of, and the thing is, I think you need to. it's one of these things that don't give up halfway through it. I will say that to people, because it is things that has loads of threads, and it's right up until the end.
It's not reality.
No, it's fantasy. Yeah, it's very fantasy based.
It's not.
So was the first
there's
one.
no basis in it. Well,
it's not X-Men, but it's not.
No, but it's more in the
Agatha Christie. I don't know.
It's the Agatha Christie school of murder, not the Sweeney or like Hill Street Blues or like gritty Line of Duty. It's not that.
But every actor overplays their role.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I was actually reading a piece. Janelle Monáe was talking about her accent/accents in a piece I was reading last night, and Ryan Johnson, director, was telling her, "Go bigger, just make it as big as you want."
And that I don't think that's for everyone, you know.
Oh no, maybe not. Yeah, but it certainly has a size.
You only watched it twice.
Would I have watched it twice?
You did.
I haven't yet seen it a second time. I want to watch it a second time. Most people I know would like to watch it a second time or have watched it twice. I've only spoken to one person, and pretty much everyone I know has seen it. One person spotted the key clue during it and was able to, because the clue is there on screen, and he's the only one. And he says, and I was like, "Did I just see what I just seen?" And he was like, "I've spotted it."
Do you believe him?
I do, because he wouldn't try and score points. Right. I do, yeah. He just tell it. He was like, he saw the thing happen that told him.
Have you wrapped up all your Christmas watching, Fionnuala?
Yes. Oh, yes. I have to come out the other side.
That's all done now.
I don't think there's anything left, anyways. I think
because you were watching some stuff episodic, and she's watched
every Christmas thing, like every Christmas film.
I finished. I don't watch the way he does it. Then
no one does.
I mean, I can't be 2 years.
I'm still up to Christmas 1987 at the moment. I'm hoping to Christmas 1987.
You probably actually have documentation evidence for that.
No,
right, okay, that's good to hear. Right, let me see. A caller says, I took one of your recommendations to watch Yellowstone over Christmas. It was amazing. Sat till 3 a.m. watching it.
Excellent.
I just started watching it myself, and it is actually really good.
Yeah. Thank God for all the extra channels, because TV over Christmas was rubbish. If a film was on one station, it was on every other station the next night, and the next night, a load of rubbish. Scheduled telly is letting itself down.
It's big time, I see a lot of people complaining about that, actually.
I don't know if it's the cost or the fact that so many have gone to the platforms, but I'd say I totally agree with that. And not only that, but nothing new coming to schedule. Like all these movies that you saw, even a thrill, and there's how many times can you watch the same
on The Rock, that kind of, which is a fine film, but it's
who hasn't seen it?
There was a few newer, they had like Stan and Ollie was on St. Stephen's Night, and they had 1917 was on. Some of the more recent
show,
yeah, they're good ones, but because I looked down, there were few and far between. I thought
it's very clear that the BBC and ITV now, and it doesn't really apply much to Channel 4, are pumping all of their money into their on-demand platforms. ITVX, they're releasing all their new stuff seemingly on that first.
Wow, BBC.
And the BBC are just absolutely obsessed with their streaming and on-demand stuff, much to the detriment of scheduled media. Not least another local radio station in this area, Foyle, that seem to think that everything is online or nothing. Which is
they're definitely, as they would phrase it, as streamlining their organisation, but they do seem to be leaving things to one side now and not focusing on the local
Everything
stuff.
is based on what is popular on the player rather than what's popular from listenership terms or whatever.
Which is another reason why I don't understand or maybe that's what they're planning, is that they're going to start charging people for the player, but
we'll see.
It's amazing. Although Call the Midwife was on the Christmas special, and it was, as always, awesome.
Brilliant. Okay, is that on your list?
No, I watched it over it's Christmas. It's based on Christmas. It was out on TV on Christmas Day, so unless you have to,
it's done and dusted. Christmas is a bad word. You can't use that. Bad
you
word.
can illegally find it somewhere because they're so mean.
Well, as long as you don't download it, I'm not sure it's legal.
You can watch it. I never fully understand that. I don't understand, so I just call it.
There is a differentiation.
They never understand it, but you can watch. You can find it.
Watch limited series Treason on Netflix, starring Charlie Cox from Marvel's Daredevil.
Yes,
really enjoyed it. Also, watch The Good Nurse with Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne. True story and a harrowing watch. I think we did The Good Nurse on the show before.
Interested in hearing about Treason. Yeah,
you haven't seen it though.
No, but again, I wanted to see what people are thinking of it. Again, because people have been asking me about it. Friends have said, because it's Charlie Cox.
Yeah,
and he was in Ken as well as Daredevil, and he's a very, very good actor. Like.
Speaking of Lee Guchan recommendations, he recommended Tulsa King, Sylvester Stallone's show, and a listener saying it's a great show.
That's from the same guy who does Yellowstone.
Nice. Well, there you go.
Taylor Sheridan. He writes every episode.
I didn't even know it was on here, that you could get it anywhere over here.
I think it's on Paramount, is it? Is that what we said? Yeah. over here. Yeah.
At least Sky Cinema. You have to have Sky Cinema to get Paramount Plus.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, I'm excited about that. That's his third show now, if you don't include the 2 miniseries, because he also does Jeremy Renner's show. Jeremy Renner, obviously in the news because he had an accident there on New Year's Day with a snowplow. But he has a show, Mayor of, what the heck is it called? Mayor of something.
Eastwick Wood?
No, it's not that show. It's a different one. That's all with the answer.
We'll be back actually reviewing things. Jack Ryan, we got that.
Yeah, thumbs up, big thumbs up.
So
thumbs
far,
up.
But you're happy with how everything.
Well, it hits the show.
It's interesting as well. They seem to have gone back to we were talking about it there last year about how we've lost the bad guy. Yeah. In a lot of these things. Yeah. It's all very kind of vague.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
From some country with sand
some country
or
where
they
have their sand in it, or some country where they're speaking what sounds like a Slavic kind of a type language or whatever. Whereas in this one,
season 3 it's full on Russia, Ukraine. It's full on. Even though it's based on a novel that was written many years ago, some conflicts never really go away. So it just so happens that it's quite topical.
It's just amazing, given, I know there's at least 2 or 3 movies that haven't come out because of the fact that there was a Ukrainian bad guy or a Russian bad guy, and the thing of the war and that kind of thing. So it's amazing,
I think there should always be some level of separation between reality and art.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do it.
Give us a bit of credit.
Surely you should be able to tell. But the new, the guys that did The Gentleman, they had one that was supposed to come out last February, and it still hasn't come out.
The Gentleman was a great show.
Oh my God, it was awesome.
Is that the one with
the movie?
Yeah,
it was so good. It was the one with Hugh Grant. It is, with Hugh Grant.
I watched that twice actually.
And Colin Farrell. Oh God, I've definitely watched it 2 or 3 times. Colin Farrell.
Was there a couple? Has there already been a couple in that franchise? No, just one.
This isn't part of it. It's not a franchise. It's just it's just a standalone movie. But
if you know what I mean,
it's a similar type of cast.
It's going to be one that you go, oh, we really need to see that. But if you watch it, you enjoy it, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, no, it's. I never think of his name. He was married to Madonna, the English director. But Guy Ritchie. Because I've said so many times, people said to me, "Oh, you should watch it," and I was like, "Oh God, I'm not a Guy Ritchie. I wouldn't be into Guy Ritchie movies." But actually, it was phenomenal.
And it is a Guy Ritchie movie, and you can tell. Right, more from Michael and Fanula, and you listening wherever you are or watching the show after these messages.
Great news! The Houseproud Group Stock Disposal Sale continues today and all this weekend at the Strabane store. With so much stock still to clear, prices have been cut again on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud Abercorn Square, Strabane. Don't miss out. Sale also at Oma Store.
Payment of the local property tax for 2023 is due by Thursday the 12th of January. If you haven't yet paid or made arrangements to pay or haven't already filed your LPT return, please do so now. The easiest way to file and pay is online through My Account, Ross or the LPT portal. If you select the annual debit instruction option, your payment won't be debited until the 21st of March. If you need help or can't go online, call Revenue on 01 738 3626.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda, made for Ireland.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
Fantastic offers this January at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms. Free boiling water tap with all kitchens booked. 10% off selected wardrobe ranges and much more. Book your free design appointment in our Donegal Town showroom today by calling Cherrymore on 074 97 25 822.
Okay, you're welcome back. I think we were supposed to just before or during the break there, Fionnuala, that the Banshee of Iskaheen. Is it divided? Is that what it's called?
Inisherin. You're close.
Banshee of Ed Sheeran. That is.
Sheeran, I just heard what you said.
I would watch that movie.
I want to see that movie as well.
One of my highlights of 2022 was going to see him in Croke Park. He was very good, but it's not divisive. It is. Is it?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Is it along gender lines? No.
No.
No,
so. That's a good
we've
question.
got a mix. No, well, in our house we had a mix of it. It was one of those
girls were saying to me they didn't enjoy it.
Really?
No, I don't. Yeah, I've tried to watch it 6 times. It's hard to explain, but every time I tried to watch it, something happened
that was distracted you.
And he's about 2 foot tall.
Oh God! Well, in no way should you be watching it when he's in the same house. I'd say to my dad that has, because it does get a bit.
Oh, don't worry, we weren't cuddled up on the couch watching it. It wasn't quite like that. But anyway, it's a disruptive force.
It's
it's after you then.
Like presence to be felt. But I just think it's one of those things I'd love to hear from listeners, because I know many times over the Christmas with friends and with family, you'd start talking about different things that you're watching. You know, the way over the Christmas you kind of catch up every 3 or 4 days or 2 days, whatever. What are you watching? What are you doing? I had been recommending the Banshee of Inisherin because I really liked it and I enjoyed it, and it ended up with many surreal disagreements about why it was good or why it was bad, because it seems to be, it's one of those things where people either really didn't like it or really loved it. You don't get a lot of people saying, no, it was fine. Well, in my world, I don't get a lot of people say, oh, no, it was fine. Most of them are like, oh, God, why did we end up watching that? That kind of thing.
So this year, do you think this year would be, if there was a way of tracking it, maybe the year where in a record way, people chose their own viewing over Christmas? Like, I'm thinking if that film became available to stream on Disney, I think it is, the Onion Island film, Glass Onion or whatever it's called. And you know, I don't, because Hudson was sick over Christmas, and maybe I was out of touch a little bit, but I didn't hear the Doctor Who-y kind of talk or the Mrs.
The water cooler thing where everybody's watching the thing.
You know what I mean? It seemed to be what people were talking about. I just wondered, did this year more than ever, did people plan their viewing rather than watch the live scheduled stuff? I don't know. Maybe listeners can help with that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I wonder if the Glass Onion movie was the one, because I know a lot of people, because that was a big thing for Netflix. It was a thing that they bought, that they promoted over Christmas. You know, it was that might be the closest thing to being a water cooler moment where people all kind of watched it over that weekend to talk about it.
Yeah, and those who didn't see it in the cinema then got access to the Isle of Inisherin.
Just the Ed Sheeran movie. Just the Ed Sheeran movie. Yeah, a lot of people.
I just think maybe this was a.
I think so, but there was lots of different things out though, because I know, and I don't know when it came out on the thing, because it's not really my cup of tea. But everybody I knew as well was watching The Last Bond.
Oh yeah, it was on TV.
It was on Amazon.
It was on.
I actually still haven't seen that yet.
That's the No Time to Die. That's
this last one. Yeah,
the No Time to Die,
one,
and I think I
might try that this weekend. You know, I think that's what. Might try that one because I need to finish it off, because I've watched all the others.
Watch it
in quick succession.
Yeah, watch it while they're.
I was going to go in the other direction with it, because I watched that one and I was like, I think that's actually the only Daniel Craig one I've ever watched.
Yeah, no, he's excellent.
And then
he is. He's
I'm watching The Handmaid's Tale at the minute, and I love it.
Yeah, that's one of those acclaimed.
Is that for everyone? Is it?
It's one of those acclaimed shows. I mean, it is critically acclaimed. Elizabeth Moss.
I tried and I didn't like it, but then I'm not a big dystopian. I don't like a lot of dystopian stuff set in.
When I get to it, I probably will end up loving it. It's just I haven't got to it yet for various reasons.
Because
there's 700 shows in production.
I won't be alive when he even tried to start doing that. Matilda, the musical in the cinema, was great. Says the listener.
What was that one?
Matilda.
Oh, okay, right. I've seen the trailer.
I'm disappointed with the. It was supposed to be coming out on Netflix, and there was talk about it coming out on Netflix over the Christmas, that it was going to be the Christmas thing, and then it disappeared, and now it's not going to be in Netflix until the summer.
Oh, that's unusual.
I did find a place to stream it, and I have to say I enjoyed it, but I really liked Matilda the story. So
why would they delay it? Do you think maybe it got caught up fire in the cinemas a bit, and they thought
maybe that was it? With the kids being off and people looking for things to do with their kids, that was it. But there was a lot of talk that it was going to be out. It was going to be with the Glass Onion being kind of the adult thing on Netflix.
I mean, Onion Island.
Onion Island should definitely change the name. And that Matilda the musical then was going to be the kids one. But now it says sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Onion Island.
Onion Island and Ed Sheeran Island and all those fellows.
Banshee of Ed Sheeran.
They're all great.
So good.
Okay. 086 60 25,000. Great start to the new year with lots of you texting in what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, and what you've been watching or what you've gone to see in the cinema. A Man Called Otto from Tom Hanks. Now, he's in a small band of actors. That mostly what he does is good.
And look, this is nobody's going to be disappointed if you go to this as a Tom Hanks fan. It's very much I put it down on it because not because it's absolutely brilliant or anything. It's just a really nice movie. And if you kind of want to go, it starts in the cinema tonight. And if you want to go and watch something, it's based on a book. A man called Ov went around the Rabbit Family Sisters at one point. Everybody had a read of it. And it's very kind of a quirky, nice little book. It's all about this older gentleman and, living in a small area, sort of falling out with his neighbours, getting cranky, and then suddenly new neighbours move into the road that they live on, and it's all about how that kind of changes over. His wife has passed away, and so it's I mean, if you like things like, remember there was a movie St. Vincent that was out years ago. There was there's a couple of them that are kind of like in this, so just sort of a nice, even the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood that Tom Hanks did.
Oh yeah,
this is just one of really.
And has
kind
he moved into that age bracket now? Is it whereby he can play the, I don't know if it's cranky, but the cranky older widow?
Well, he definitely is now, because sure he isn't. If he's not 70, he's close to it.
Really?
Well, he must be.
Oh, my word, okay.
Well, he was his first TV show, Buzz and Buddies, was 82. He was already well into his 20s when he did that.
Yeah, I think he might be 70. If he's not, he's very close.
He's close to it. Has to.
So he definitely has. I mean, obviously now he looks great, and it's Tom Hanks. But Tom Hanks is one of those people, as you say, you just go into a movie and you know it's in good hands. I mean, he was in that in the Elvis movie, and. It's probably the worst performance I've ever seen of a Tom Hanks.
Mind that,
but it was still awesome.
My fault with that film, I thought he was fine actually in that, right?
You didn't find the accent kind of dropped and lifted?
I didn't, because I was more peeved as someone who was brought up listening to Elvis music, that there wasn't more of music where it wasn't done cleverly or fading in and out or stuff. I just thought there should be more Elvis music in it. Other than that, I thought it was. I wasn't offended by him at all. Not offended, but I didn't.
Like as I said, now I loved Elvis. I thought it was great, and people should definitely watch it. But I thought he was, and I was like, going, that's how good it was, in that he was the worst thing in it, and you'd normally never.
Yeah, no, I get it in the context.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying in the bigger thing with it, but it's not that he was bad in any way. But in the whole of the movie. But in this, it's starting in the cinema now. It's like you're looking for something to just kind of go, have a little bit of niceness washed over you. This is basically, this is going to be the movie for you. It just has a really lovely kind of a feel-good feel about it. And to me, watching it, I was like, oh, this is a nice way now to start the new year.
And Whitney Houston has her latest films in the cinema as well, so there's a few different types of films out there at the moment. Right, okay, so you haven't seen this yet? You've read the book, though?
I've read the book and I did watch it.
Right, okay. Well, that was another, obviously, example of you getting a pre-screening. What would you give it out of 10? I
really enjoyed it, so I definitely would give it like a 7. I mean, the characters in it are very good in it.
Decent.
And it's very... Now, you're not, this is not your action movie. This is not your... things happening every 5 seconds.
It sounds mellow. It sounds like a nice mellow.
It's just that, it's just a really, really nice movie. Yeah. There's a lovely kind of a story to it, a lovely feeling to it, and it you just come out the other side of it going, oh, that was lovely.
Greg, don't forget supping the pints while putting your cigarette on the other side of your mouth after it, and spare dart on the left hand. They were multitasking men back then. Tense stuff. Even one of the hosts lost his voice, Wayne Mardle, but he's always over-egging it anyway. Somebody had said the dart thuds were akin to Brendan Gleeson's fingers off the door in the Banshee of Inish Sheeran. I'm just going to call it Ed Sheeran. Thanks, Kevin. By the way, after watching the premiere of the latest Bond on ITV, how ridiculous the villain was. Maybe it was because Daniel's Onion show made me cry. Only another 354 days to Christmas. I drove to work this morning and the moon was spectacular. It was low and you could actually see the different, the colours and shapes of it, but I'm finished with that now. The sooner it gets brighter,
you want bright mornings,
the sooner it gets brighter in the mornings.
I've seen the moon some nights from the other end, and it's been really lovely. Like, it has been an amazing moon.
Another planet.
From being up late, not being up early.
Oh, the other end? No.
The other side, I'm not up. I'm not up at the
dark side.
I don't know what
I'm not up at the same time as you unless I'm up.
Yeah, okay, I agree. You've seen it at night. It's the same moon. By the way, in the same cycle. Right, okay. Thanks very much for that, astronomer, Michael Letty.
Just think, me staring at the moon, and out there somewhere driving to work, Greg staring at the moon at the exact same time.
It's so
it's magical.
It's
magical.
Sentiment.
The bromance is up and running for 2023.
I feel like I should leave. Just get a walk and leave you alone together, clearly.
We'll be back with more after a cuddle and a break.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
New this week in Home Store and More. All floor lamps are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price floor lamps are gone, they're gone. Also, all home gym equipment, all 100% cotton printed duvet sets, all prestige kitchenware, and all feather and down duvets and pillows are all still half price. But when they're gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More, or visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
If over the holidays you decide it's time to change your car, then why not treat yourself to a new Kia in 2023? Make an inquiry on our website and we'll be in touch to arrange your purchase when we return in the new year. We have cars ready to drive away in January, so visit imotors.ie. iMotors would like to wish everyone a happy new year.
The Brussels Eye in the Sky is watching you. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
New satellites to inspect all farms every 5 days. Battle of the Breeds, we reveal which suckler breed secured the top weanling prices. Jail for fraudster involved in online tractor and farm machinery scam. And following recent savage dog attacks, we detail your legal rights and how to deal with a dog worrying sheep in your farm.
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
Arno's Hotel Dunfanny are celebrating 100 years in business. The birthday bash will kick off on Friday the 6th of January through to Sunday the 8th of January, with loads of events and celebrations planned across the weekend. Highland Radio will be broadcasting the Jive Time show live on Friday from 2:30, and Jimmy Stafford will bring the Saturday Shuffle live from the hotel from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. We'll have great music, interviews and giveaways across both days. If you're in the area, come along and join us at Arno's Hotel 100th Birthday Bash.
Okay, welcome back to the programme. It's the 9 till noon show. It's That's Entertainment. And I want to say hello and good morning now to Bree Carr. Good morning, Bree. How are you?
Good morning, Greg.
It's good to have you on the programme. Fantastic. I love the matching cap and top.
Oh, why, thank you. When you're back at school, you have to set an example from pennies. Yes. Thank God.
Every little helps. Oh, no, that's somewhere else. Okay, Bree, an important night coming up in Creasler tonight, and we're giving people a bit of warning. There's some spaces available if people want to go along. Is that correct?
Yeah, we just decided it's Nulloch Naman, Little Women's Christmas, and we just decided, as we always do, Wild Atlantic Women have marked Nulloch Naman since, I first really heard of it back in 2016, and a lot of the girls from rural, northwest Donegal, it would be a very well-known tradition throughout Ireland. So we've just marked it with song and reflection and in light of the year that we've had. We've had the conversations with Father John Joe and with Father Philip and the girls themselves, and we just reckoned, do you know what, let's just have a pared back evening of reflection, gratitude, and thanking, God or each other for the friends and the family that we have, and for the absent friends and family. And it's a very pared back, and I'm really grateful to all the girls for getting involved. And obviously there's a lot of the Wild Atlantic women who it doesn't sit because it's a Friday night and they've got gigs, but there's old faces and new faces, and really excited about it, Greg, to be honest,
Yeah, and I suppose it's about hope and the future as well. It's in Ard Chapel tonight at 7:30 p.m.
That's right.
There's a huge amount of people at it. I'm not sure if we can mention them all or if it's fair to pick some out, but some amazing talent just looking down through the list here.
Everything, every genre, all the girls from songwriters to singers, young and myself, not so young, and everything in between. And what's new this time as well is like people would have gone to some of our events before and would have seen a lot of the videos that we did over lockdown. So what's really nice is what has been opened up to us is, artists that are poets and writers that, write verses and whatnot in both English and in Irish. So I'm very excited about it, and it's very, very pared back in that the congregation that are there, or the audience, as some of us like to call it, are more than welcome to join in. And in the songs we've picked very pared back, lovely hymns. I've left the girls with complete autonomy of what they want to write, what they want to sing, what they want to speak about, and literally everybody's just bringing a little piece of themselves to the table, and hope that whoever's there gets to take a little piece of hope and gratitude home with them after the event.
I think it's going to be a lovely event. It's 7:30 tonight in Ard Chapel, so plenty of space, plenty of parking, and I think people are going to really enjoy it if they can. Sounds like a very nice way to spend your Friday evening.
Well, it's a lovely way, and as well as I'd like to actually thank Ard's Friary, Father John Joe, Father Philip and Father Alphonsus for all their work, and Paul Hegarty in the tea rooms. He's opening up the tea rooms late,
Lovely.
So people can come and go. It's not a case of there's no charge or anything like that. It's people can come and light a candle, say a few prayers, remember their loved ones, be with their loved ones, and just celebrate Nullag Naman in a new way moving forward into the new year.
Brilliant stuff, Brie. Sounds, and I don't want just saying, it does sound like it's going to be a lovely thing, 'cause it's a lovely setting, and obviously with the theme and the importance of it. Listen, thanks so much, Brie. Best
Thank
of
you so
luck.
much for
See you
having us
soon.
on.
No, it's our pleasure to have you on. So if you want to get along to the Ard Chapel, 7:30 p.m. Tonight, and there's an amazing list of people there. Bree's performing, Maria McCormick, Anne Biddy, Carol Wilson and Jean Corrin, and on Hannah, Nick Fadjean, and so many more. Okay, best of luck with that. Some of your messages coming in, keep them coming in to us. Watch the first episode of Yellowstone prequel 1932, starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. Very good as well. Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what that is?
Yeah, it's the second miniseries. This one is going to run for 2 seasons.
Oh, so this is a not reincarnation.
No, it's
the Yellowstone is set kind of in modern times.
Yep.
And then what they did was it's all about this big ranch, and they own like half of freaking Colorado.
It's the largest ranch in the continental United States.
And they've made a new series
about
the ancestors.
They made 2 mini-series.
Okay, cool.
So the first one is about how they got the ranch, the family got the ranch in the first place.
And that was 1883 is the name of that one.
Yeah.
And Sam Elliott's in that, amongst others.
A couple of country music, Keith.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of country music artists and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Miley Cyrus's father's in it.
Billy Ray?
That's who it is. I think it's him that's in it. There's a couple of country music guys that are in that, right?
And that's 10 episodes in that series, and that's complete.
That's complete. That's the old one. And then the new one, which is just...
new.
This new one now, which has just come out last year.
I didn't realize it was. I know it's been
so
huge because this is a program, Yellowstone, that it's fans that are talking about it. I think way more than critics or the media or whatever. It's fans that are
particularly here because RT are the only ones that shown it, and
Sunday
they
nights,
showed it at like late on a Sunday night, so it wasn't as if it was like their 9 o'clock thing on a Sunday that everybody was sitting down to watch. But that's what it is. So the first one is back in the 1800s, and then this one which has Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren in it, is set in the early
1923.
1900s.
Yeah.
Missed the start of your entertainment slot. You are forgiven this one time only. It's 11 a.m. sharp, by the way. Kaleidoscope. Is it Kyle's Kaleidoscope? Absolutely brilliant.
He's okay.
Watching it. Has actors from Breaking Bad, Queen of the South, which is another good show, Queen of the South.
yeah,
I never finished that one, you know.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, Queen of the South, just loved it. Edge of the seat stuff.
See?
Also, and English drama Treason. Treason's
Yes,
another
that's
recommendation.
Charlie Cox show, yeah.
I love this one. Big fan of-
Giancarlo Esposito is from, that's who's in,
the chicken guy.
Yeah, the chicken guy.
I think that's how he's referred to in the show, isn't it? I love Tom Hanks. On a holiday in Alabama, I sat on the summer seat that Tom Hanks sat on in Forrest Gump.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a picture of it.
Well,
do you not believe them?
You'll
It's
love
not that
this,
it-
Otto.
well, I mean, I need evidence. No, I do believe them, of course. There's a storyline in EastEnders where two 12-year-olds are having a baby. What are your thoughts on this?
Good gosh.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. I haven't seen.
I find it very hard to take soap operas seriously in anything that they do, to be honest, because a lot of it is so ridiculous.
Because they've done that before in it. If you remember,
Everything's rehashed, isn't it?
But if you remember, is it in Coronation Street? Sarah Louise, wasn't that her name? Gail's daughter. She had a child and she was like 13 or 14
personally, my view on it is, if anyone's interested in, is I understand that they try and maybe hold a mirror up to society or try and reflect what's happening in society. I don't think that needs to be forming part of a 7:30 soap opera, personally.
Well,
I don't know what it adds positively to the conversation.
Yeah, and it's all about how these things are done. And as you say, if they're doing it at 7:30 in that kind of soap opera slot, I mean, if this was a drama, a 9 o'clock drama, maybe you could see the reason behind it. It doesn't, without seeing it, doesn't sound...
Sometimes what it can do, though, is it can open up a conversation. I think 12 is very... Now, and I haven't seen this, so obviously I'm not saying out how they've dealt with it in EastEnders. I can't be doing with the roaring at each other.
Yeah, my pub.
I had to give that up. But I do think, 12 is a little bit young, but I do think that sometimes when it comes up, it can open conversations. You know, I remember, like I said...
I think, though, at certain ages, what I think it does, then you can sort of say, well, it's happening. And for some people say, well, it's happening. Well, maybe it could happen to me. I actually think we need a kind of a broader conversation about how we and what we talk to children about. I think there's evidence to suggest that maybe it's not as productive or as beneficial as we might think it is. I just think that's something that's worth checking now and again to make sure we're doing it right.
And all kids are different then as well. What you can talk to one 12-year-old about and what compared to another can
and
be
you
a
also
lot.
have to factor in that there are people going to sit and watch it and not have a conversation about it, because we always presume that you're watching something. That could be something where everyone goes quiet.
And nothing, and then just move on to the next show.
Things get a bit glamorized on it.
That's...
And even unintentionally glamorized.
Precisely
you
the
see
point I
some
was
of
trying
these
to
shows that are on MTV and that kind of thing, and it's like teen mom and teen this, and suddenly they're like famous. And they like everything about their lives then shows up on all these other different things, and you're like, that's not really telling you what it's like, you know, to wake up in the middle of the night, as you know you've experienced with your lad, but to wake up in the middle of the night and always be the one that has to be getting up like 6-7 times in the night,
100%,
and not, you know, people are doing it on their own and that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of nuances that can never be.
It's just
played out.
Listen, there is always adult situations that applies to children, right? But then you talk about, are we then normalising it? So in other words, it's not really adult situations that applies to children. It's just people. I just think we need to be really. Careful where we're going. And what we're putting on our children.
Why are they doing? Is it to
say for instance, you know, this affects 1 in 1,000 children, right? You're having that conversation with 1,000 children.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
So is the benefit of avoiding the one? Are you in some way affecting the 999? I'm not saying that's the case, but
but it's a valid question.
And I think as well, you need to ask, when we come out with stuff that's in surveys that say that kids as young as 12 are engaged in any kind of sexual activity or lots of different things, drugs, there's lots of things. It's not just this particular issue, but lots of issues where they say, I'm always curious, where are they interviewing these people?
Yeah.
Like if they're interviewing these kids in school, Like, I don't know any kid at 12 that's going to sit there with a group of friends in school and not stick their hand up or write down and go, oh my God, yeah, totally. No matter what their level of experience or thing. It's like, I don't know.
And also one thing I noticed when the soaps cover issues, they do it by numbers. They do it with what, the average of what happens in life.
Yeah.
And then they deliver in one way or other what is the general consensus within medicine or within whichever field of that issue, and that is the solution or the outcomes or the possibilities, which I don't think we should necessarily trust absolutely. That maybe that also needs to be
they shouldn't be seen as an authority on these things.
Exactly. And I'm not personally saying I am or would. I just think we have to be careful that in some of our conversations we're not actually damaging the majority to try and highlight maybe something that might affect the minority. There might be a better way to approach that rather than having it on at 7 o'clock in the evening. Yeah. But I haven't seen any of it.
No, I haven't. I wonder, are they doing something like this just for ratings? Is it because it's going to be sensational?
They're competing with Brookside,
yeah,
obviously.
so they're trying to be sensationalised.
But it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing a storyline on Coronation Street at the moment. It's hilarious. Do you know what I mean? How they're handling it. It's, but like you just laugh. You just laugh. I could highlight the flaws, the plot holes in it, but sure, where would you end? You could be here every Friday.
Oh, I know. It's our thing. I mean, sometimes soaps do things well. It's just, and maybe they are doing this well and in a
could be
as responsible manner. I think the thing is it a topic that should even be on it? I suppose.
I think without saying it, I don't know. But
it's a sign of how times have changed. You were saying it earlier about the darts, but like it's definitely a storyline you would not have seen at 7:30. On any weeknight, in a couple of decades.
I don't think we fully determine whether you should see it now.
Yeah, but we definitely wouldn't have. So, I mean, was that, that would definitely be post-Watershed, that kind of adult material,
Yeah, but maybe that's the right. Maybe you speak to adults, right, and then they can do the parenting of their children rather than the program doing the parenting.
It's not up to TV to parent kids,
What a wider debate. 086 60 25,000. Let me see what we'll pick off the list after that, after these messages.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Every year, about 2,800 people in Ireland get bowel cancer. Bowel screening helps to reduce your risk of developing it. If you're aged 60 to 69, you can register today for a free bowel screen test kit. Once you've done the test at home, return it by free post and we'll test your sample for levels of blood. If you need any more tests, we'll let you know. Register today at hse.ie/bowel screen or free phone 1-800 45 45 55 from the HSE.
Dillon's Hotel, Letterkenny is the perfect place to celebrate special occasions. Dillon's exclusive function rooms cater for up to 120 guests for any occasion, from corporate celebrations, presentations and networking events to milestone birthdays, anniversaries and retirement parties. There's audio-visual equipment, integrated PA systems and even a private bar. Dillon's Hotel, perfectly located in Letterkenny Town Centre with award-winning food and 5-star service. Call 91-22977.
From the smallest shrub to the largest tree in an awkward place, Donnelly Tree Services provide a complete range of tree surgery services. Whether you need to remove a dangerous tree or some nuisance branches, Donnelly Tree Services have the experience and expertise to carry out tree surgery to the highest of professional standards. Call 083 005 9939. Donnelly Tree Services, Donegal. No job is too small, no tree is too tall.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, we match Aldi on the products you love. 2, get great better than half price special offers like my What Do You Know Added Sugar Double Concentrate 1 litre range, $1.86. Selected Personal Liquid 24 Wash, $5.49. And 3, money off vouchers every week on the app. Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
All right, let's have a look at the weather forecast. A brand new one in for you. Mostly dry but cloudy. There'll be 1 or 2 bright spells at times. Later, isolated showers will develop as cloud thickens from the west ahead of strengthening. Southerly winds, a band of more persistent rain and drizzle will move in during the afternoon and evening. Highest temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees. I think it's going to be a An indoors weekend.
Starting to sing there.
I think it's going to be an indoor weekend, I think. Right, let us see what is to discuss here. I better give you one more here.
Okay.
I don't know, take your pick, because they all have
From my
interesting
list.
titles.
The Bear.
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Yes, of course.
The Bear is on Disney, and The Bear caught my eye because it was on several critics' end-of-year lists for last year. So I started it last night with episode 1, and I was absolutely blown away. I thought it was a 10 out of 10, fantastic. I can totally see why it was the show of the year for many critics. American Film Institute picked it as one of their 10 shows of the year as well. The Bear is a half-hour comedy drama,
right?
And it's about a chef. And it's about a chef who has to go back to take over his family business, which is failing. And it's a small, rundown kitchen cafe and on the outskirts of I suppose New York City. What I loved about the first episode was the performance of the lead actor was amazing. The first episode took a day in the life approach, so it was kind of 8 hours from him waking up in the early hours, and it was all the food prep that went on till they open. They open at lunchtime. That's when they open. And it was fast moving, it was frantic. There was people running around in a very small kitchen, yelling, shouting, screaming at each other. He was trying to get order. He's the new boss. And in the middle of all this, what really impressed me is they were able to deftly put in all the backstory you need to know, all the characterization. We know who his cousin is. We know there's a rivalry there. The cousin felt he should have gotten control of the family business, so he doesn't want to do anything that the hero wants to do. We also got some hints about his background. This guy is an absolute genius. The guy should be one of the top chefs. He's on track to be one of the top chefs in the country, but he's decided to come home and try and save the family business. And it grabbed me by the lapels, pulled me right in, and I can't wait to watch more. It was just, I love, and one of the things...
The lapels, you say?
Yeah, just grab
wow,
lapels.
Okay.
I remember when I watched Treme, I'm ignoring you, when I watched Treme years ago, an excellent series about New Orleans post-Katrina, my favourite character on that as well was the chef. I loved her story, and it tracked out over the 4 seasons. So in many ways, it's the same sort of thing.
You're going to really
she's up against
enjoy Under Siege.
She's up against it, or he's up against it.
That's terrible for anybody who doesn't know that reference.
I know what he's on about. But the thing about it is the performance and the visuals, and you see random things. Like in the middle of scenes, you see photographs from his childhood. It's like bang, bang, bang. It's throwing stuff at you the whole time. And by the end of it, I really cared about the guy. And in the final seconds, and it's not really a spoiler, but in the final seconds, it looked like he was going to capitulate and give in to something that his cousin was forcing him to do, put something on the menu he didn't want to do. And he was opening these cans and he was going to do it. And you're watching it, what's he going to do? And then in the last second, he just takes it, he flings it in the bin.
Right, it's in the tomatoes.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, it's a spaghetti thing. And you're like, because he was going to go the cheap route. The cousin is like,
stop.
But you're making this
stop doing.
In the world, but he opens tins of
No, the
spaghetti.
cousin is.
You're making this sound so
the
dramatic.
cousin is forcing him. The cousin is saying, "Stop doing all the stuff you're doing. Do these tins.
Okay,
Do these
right.
tins."
We'll have to watch an episode. It's on half an hour.
And he was like, and then in the final seconds, you're like, is he going to give in? Is he going to give in? Is it going to be a slow, gradual thing? But he just grabbed it and he was like, right in the bin. Right in the bin. And I was going to cheer. I was like, yes, I want this guy to win. No, I really want this guy to win.
I'm interested to see based on your review.
No, it's getting great reviews, and I've people have been recommending it to me for a while.
Yeah.
One of my brother-in-laws in particular is mad about it.
Yeah.
But and also I'm almost sure this is the whole thing. Some of the episodes in it were done in one take.
Right, okay.
Oh, yes.
So what they just did was they just did the whole half hour every day for like about 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
They did the exact same thing. And then they just took whichever day turned out the best, and that's what they put up.
That sounds like there was a lot of long takes in. Well, there was nothing for the whole episode, but yeah, there's times where he's just running around, and somebody throws something at him from off, like he wants bread, and he doesn't catch it, so he just shouts again, and you know well that. I just was like, no, they're just going for it. You know, they're not like that. He just missed it, and he was like again.
Yeah, okay.
So but
it's worked.
There's a kinetic / frenetic aura to the whole thing. I felt exhausted when it was over. If it had been an hour, I would have slept in this morning. I would have slept in this morning. I couldn't handle it if it was an hour. It's just.
Out.
I loved it. Loved it.
Let's watch an episode between now and next Friday.
And that's on Disney.
Lady Shatter's Lover. Can we do that in a minute? Emma Corrin and
Is
Jack
that a direct quote from the direct quote?
It's a direct quote.
You can if you want.
Is that a
good?
quiz?
Is it a bodice ripper? Is it toned down? Is it? I don't know. If I hear those three words, I think of
I know, and to be honest, and I went to it to see what they'd actually done with it, because this was the. You kind of normally would have a bit of Bridgerton, and we'd have something like that would sort of keep you going over the Christmas, get the fires going in a nice romantic sort of way. Not Lady Chatterley's Lover, I'll tell you that. But no, there's not a lot of that in it. But to be honest, it's a book that's always kind of on the list. You know the way it's one of those things you sort of think, God, I really should read that.
No,
and
that's never happened to me with Lady Chatterley.
Yes, but I could ask you now, how many episodes of Baywatch were ever made, and what is your
242,
and which is your favourite? And you'd be able to answer me.
Probably the one where Mitch's mum had Alzheimer's.
So we don't care if Lady Chatterley's Lover's not on your list. Continue.
No, but Netflix has redone it, as they have to. They go back and do it. Usually, I have to say, they've done not a bad job of some of their stuff. They've got an Empress and a few other things that they've done that are dated around the same time as this. I don't know is that I don't like. I mean, I went to this purely because Jack O'Connell's in it, which I do like him. He's in that 1917 and that kind of thing. Irish actor, young Irish actor, excellent actor.
Is this a series?
This is a movie, and Emma Corrin, if anybody doesn't recognise the name, she is the girl that played the young Princess Diana in The Crown. No, don't do it. It's awful. She head tilts in this as well, which drove me cracked in The Crown.
To the left or the right?
No, I'm out.
Which side? Left.
Thank you so much, Michael Leddy.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you back.
Brilliant to be here.
Start a new year with you, and thank you so much in equal measure, Fionnuala Rabbit. Thank you to all of you who listened to the show today and throughout the week. Thanks to Caroline, who researched and produced the show, and Donna Marie, of course, working hard on the programme. We're back with you on Monday.